All right, we will get started with the public hearing this morning. I'm Mark Pendergraft, and I'll be chairing this morning's public hearing. This is a public hearing for proposed Regional District of Okanagan-Smilkameen bylaw number 2781.03 2026. The proposed bylaw and related information, including written comments received to date, are available for review at the head table. At this public hearing, all persons wishing to speak will be given an opportunity to do so and are asked to commence their remarks by stating their name and address. Written comments may be submitted before closure of this hearing. Anyone wishing to speak at this public hearing is asked to do one of the following. If you are participating in person, please step up to the microphone. If you are participating via computer, please click the raise hand button, which can be found in the participants panel on the right-hand side of your computer screen. This will indicate that you wish to speak. If you are participating by a phone, please press *3 on your phone's keypad. This will also indicate that you wish to speak. Having indicated that you wish to speak, you will then be placed in the queue until invited to speak. All speakers will be restricted to a time limit of 5 minutes until everyone who wishes to speak has had an opportunity to do so. Anyone wishing to speak a second time may do so by following the same protocol of stepping up to the microphone, selecting the raise hand button on your computer, or by pressing *3 on your phone's keypad. To submit written comments, please submit them prior to the close of this public hearing by emailing them to planning@rdos.bc.ca. For those attending in person, place them at the head table. I will now ask Shannon Duong, Planner 2, to outline the specifics of the proposed bylaws. Over to you, Shannon.
Thank you, Chair. I've just got a quick presentation. Perfect, thank you. Oop. Sorry, just having some technical issues with the clicker. Oops. Okay, so the zoning amendment bylaw, which is our focus today, is amendment bylaw number 2871.03 2026. The purpose of this amendment bylaw, or sorry, 270.03. The purpose of this amendment bylaw is to amend the electoral area G zoning bylaw number 2781/2017 in order to introduce a new conservation area and parks and recreation zones. To do so, this would result in amendments to the text of the zoning bylaw by adding new sections on the conservation area and parks and recreation zones, as well as relevant zoning regulations. This also includes replacing Schedule 2 being the zoning maps of the bylaw to include those two zones. Getting a bit into the specifics under Amendment Bylaw number 2781.03, the proposed conservation area zone is to be applied to Crown lands, which are correspondingly designated as conservation area under the Electoral Area G OCP bylaw number 2975/2022. This designation is intended to support the protection of environmentally sensitive areas where subject lands are to be preserved, protected, and left in a natural or semi-natural state for conservation purposes. So in support of this, the permitted uses within the zone would be limited to conservation area and accessory uses to that conservation use. The proposed conservation area zone would account for 23.2 hectares of land, or approximately 0.01% of the entire land base within the electoral area. Specifically, this includes two swaths of land along the Similkameen River, with one being located to the east of the village of Karamias, south of Willis Ranch Road, and the other one being located to the west of the village, south of Highway 3, as shown in this PowerPoint slide. Additionally, this does include a parcel, which is a portion of land which is surrounded by the Similkameen River, which is located west of Riverside RV Park. And with respect to the proposed parks and recreation zone, this is proposed to be applied to lands which are designated as parks and recreation under the Electoral Area G OCP bylaw. These lands generally include those lands which are publicly owned either by the Crown or the regional district and are intended to be used for leisure and recreation activities. The proposed parks and recreation zone would limit uses to park, outdoor recreation, and cemetery, as well as related accessory uses. The proposed zone would account for 54,609.8 hectares of land, or approximately 27.11% of the land base in the electoral area. This would include lands within provincial recreation areas, so that includes provincial parks and protected areas, as well as other recreation sites. So examples of this include Brent Mountain Protected Area, Snowy Protected Area, and Cathedral Provincial Park Protected Area, Nickel Plate, Karameas Columns, and Stemwinder Provincial Parks. Additionally, this would apply to lands that are park and crown lands within Headley, as well as portions of the Great Northern Railway Trail and the Vancouver Victoria Eastern Railway Trail.
Okay, thank you, Shannon. I will now declare this public hearing open and ask if there is anyone who wishes to speak to the proposed bylaws. I would ask a second time, is there anyone who wishes to speak to the proposed bylaws? I'm not seeing any hands online. Am I missing anybody, Lewis, that you're seeing? No? I'll ask for a third and final time if there is anyone who wishes to speak to the proposed bylaws. Again, seeing none, I will hereby declare this public hearing closed at 9:07. And thank you, everybody, for your patience on that. We will move straight into the Protective Services Committee. I thought Director Coyne was going to chair that, but he just left the room. Tim is online. Do you want to chair it? Oh, here comes Director Coyne walking back in the door. So, okay, he's bringing in the rest of them. So, either or. We're going straight to the Protective Services. So over to you, Director Coyne.
Thank you, Chair. Call the meeting to order. Can I get a motion to adopt the agendas? Thank you. Move second. All in favor? Carried. And I will pass it over to the CAO.
Thank you, Chair. This is the quarterly update from the RCMP. Thank you for coming, and I'm just going to pass it over to you. Thank you.
Good morning. Thanks for having us. Smaller crowd today from our protective services, but Staff Sergeant Pollock will be presenting for a number of our communities. Our area commanders are engaged in some other commitments, but we'll start out with myself and our review of the Penticton Rural and Naramata, Caledon, OK Falls. So, good morning, directors, mayors, and representatives of our regional and municipal councils. I appreciate the opportunity to brief you on current key performance indicators in relation to crime and policing in our regional district areas. This briefing reviews the data from Q4, which is October 1st to December 31st, our crime statistics, and provides a summary of some of our work in the final quarter and outlines our vision for 2026. We're still engaged in some of our community consultation, and I'd like to take the opportunity to just thank those of you that have been able to meet with Bob and discuss, but we have a little bit more work to do as it relates to our RDOS consultation for 2026 as it relates to the Penticton regional area, but we'll engage more in March and April with each of you. So one of the interesting observations was a general, over to the next slide, please. It was a general decrease in the number of calls for service from last year to this time. So total Criminal Code and Controlled Drugs and Substance Act files, we saw a 24% decrease from Q4 2024 to Q4 2025. This is consistent with the city of Penticton as well. And just an observation, we have noted a trend not only in Penticton and area, but also within the entire Southeast District and also provincially in those calls for service. So we're just a little ahead of the game in our areas for the amounts of calls that are coming in. Moving to the next slide is just a summary of our top 10 calls for service and a comparison to last year this time. And you'll still see that the top 3 calls for service is our traffic incidences, motor vehicle incidents, and check well-beings. They've just switched the order. This is a consistent trend. And, you know, there were some changes in the remaining sort of 7 calls for service, but you see that the top 3 are consistently the same for the last 2 years. Check well-being continues as well in the city of Penticton. These are not necessarily police-related calls, but calls that we do receive and are required to follow up on. Moving to the next slide. So overall, one of the noteworthy things for our review is that we saw a significant increase in reports of fraud during Q4 in Okanagan Falls, Caledon, and Naramata. Most of these incidents were online or over the phone. And during November, the community policing team hosted fraud awareness training throughout the region, and we consistently see that those most impacted by this crime are senior citizens. I had the opportunity to watch the news for once this week. I was try to avoid it sometimes, but I did see that there was a report out on that provincially that they have seen those trends, and I know our partners in the Kelowna area are feeling that pressure as well. And so we will continue to partner with the community policing team and continue to educate the public and arm them with the tools to just really question any of the online inquiries. I know with the Canada Revenue Agency likes to put out notifications as tax time is. We do see an uptick in that area. So our advice is if it doesn't make sense, you know, please don't trust the, you know, accept the charges. I had a call at work the other day about my Amazon account, and as I frequently use my Amazon account, I knew that it was fraud, but it happens to all of us, and just important to be hyper vigilant and really just question those inquiries that you get about finances. And the Canada Revenue Agency will not be sending you a text message, so please be mindful of that. I took it upon myself to deal with that one. Also, just to highlight for everybody's awareness, we did have the opportunity to talk about this in our last quarterly report. Just consistently trending throughout the region is the uptick in our intimate partner violence. We continue to monitor this in all areas, and provincially, this has been something that has been quite in the news a great deal, and just overall the continued upward trend in intimate partner violence. I'm happy to be able to work with the city of Penticton next week on a campaign that will be coming out, and you will see the benefits of that in our rural areas. And then as it relates to the RDOS, I will be highlighting in the next slide our intimate partner violence coordinator position that will be starting here this month. Assaults in all categories where there was an upward trend in the Penticton, rural, and Naramata year to date. The total numbers, though not significant, we just happened to see an uptick. No specific trend or specific reason other than it appears that people were, you know, calling the police to report these negative encounters. Over to the next slide. So just to elaborate a little bit more on this designated position, our intimate partner violence coordinator, she will be starting next week under the Special Victims Unit here in Penticton. This position will manage the highest risk investigations, will ensure compliance with our provincial policing standards around intimate partner violence, oversee the risk, liaise with Crown Counsel, and ensure meaningful connections are made with community supports such as police and community-based victim services. Once we are in a position to evaluate the workload and effectiveness of this proposed mandate, we will look at implementing the support throughout the region. So more updates to follow on that. But it is important, and it's just our way as we've grown in size and modernization to really just make sure that we're looking at what best serves our community needs. This is a new position for us in community, but it is in the larger municipal detachments quite a common position. So our efforts as a leadership team is to just really get our communities where they need to be to provide the best services and really reflect on what is important. So I'm hoping to continue to be able to share the updates on that. We know the RDOS has requested updates as it relates to victim services. I have the opportunity to be able to present that data today for Penticton rural and associated areas. I have asked our senior leadership team at our next quarterly report for the region, we will be providing those updates and those numbers. Our analysts will be and supporting our sergeants to be able to pull that information and share with this group. We've hired a new community policing Crime Stoppers coordinator. We're very lucky. This individual expressed interest. He is a retired Calgary police officer with over 25 years of service, moved to community and still had more to give. So Jeff Anderson has joined our team and hit the ground running and just really offers a great perspective to this work. And I look forward to him attending each of your communities and sharing his experience and educating our communities on public safety. Our victim services, our community policing team delivered over 171 community engagement activities in 2025. 91 community policing events were attended and 80 restorative justice sessions. Of note, the integrated crisis response team responded to over 499 mental health calls related calls in Q4. We've had significant stabilization achieved in some very complex high needs cases, reducing one individual's police contacts from 36 in 2024 to 0 over a 5-month period through coordinated clinical support. ICRT has strengthened justice system coordination, ensuring mental health information is informing Crown and on their judicial systems to really make sure that we are supporting those people that not only need that care but also may be at risk to additional violence to our community. So really an important connection. Victim Services has supported 393 active files and 119 new referrals were made. 840 emotional support calls and over 1,000 court updates were made. 13 court orientations were conducted and 14 hours of in-court testimony support. Multiple crisis callouts and active participation in community events and regional ICAT meetings. Overall, this information highlights and demonstrates a coordinated multi-agency approach to community safety. Enforcement, prevention, mental health response, and victim support are aligned and working together in these partnerships position us well going into 2026. Over to the next slide. Oh, I'd like to just highlight this photo back. Sorry, my apologies, of Dee Dee and Benally. For those of you that you may already know this, but just to highlight the fact that we have the privilege of having a service dog in the detachment here in Penticton. Benally provides care and support to those people who have experienced violence or have had an interaction and just helps them with that extra care as it relates to providing a statement to police. Just really sometimes being in the police detachment is intimidating. She offers that support. She's also, when we're interviewing children, is a great support to offer, and also with court testimony, whether it's remote or in the courtroom. It's just an amazing service and something that we do on occasion have the privilege of being able to offer to the region as well. If we have members of your communities attending in court here in Penticton, we had the privilege of being able to support provincial response to the tragedy that occurred in Tumbler Ridge. And I know that Benally was there again with Dee Dee as the schools opened up this week. And so that was just a privilege to be able to be sending that meaningful care and support. So I know I said it at the city council presentation here, but I'm just so proud of Dee Dee and her dedication to making sure that we could contribute. So just to take that moment to highlight her work. I'd like to give an update now on the repeat violent offender program as it relates locally and also provincially. During this reporting period, the Repeat Offender Management Program delivered several high impact enforcement outcomes, not only within our area, but within the entire South Okanagan-Similkameen regional area, including the immediate arrest of a violent offender following an assault, the disruption of an active drug trafficking operation, and a high-risk rural search warrant and recovered stolen vehicles, firearms, ammunition, and controlled substances. And I'll leave that for Lori to highlight that more in her presentation. These proactive enforcement actions demonstrate the program's effectiveness in targeting individuals who pose an ongoing and immediate risk to our communities. In parallel, the Repeat Violent Offender Intervention Initiative, RDOS, continues to show strong and measurable progress in reducing violent reoffending among the most persistent and high-risk offenders. Participants in RDOS are demonstrating better treatment engagement, improved compliance with conditions, and significantly fewer negative interactions with police. That doesn't mean it's perfect. It does mean it is having some effectiveness. Nearly 50% reduction after designation of these RDOS clients, highlighting the intensive supervision paired with structured supports to having a positive impact. What I want to say our experience locally is that when someone is designated a repeat violent offender throughout our region, of which currently we have 5 out of custody, it is an all hands on deck approach. Collaboration throughout the region. As each of you know, our offenders don't just necessarily stay in one community. They like to travel around. And it's just that constant communication and collaboration on how we respond to these through all of our various business lines has really shown an impact. And the key is communication and consistency. And I know that Sergeant Rock's going to be able to talk about some of that work that she's been leading in the Oliver area as well. So to the last slide. And just to highlight some of the work planned for 2026 from our area, traffic safety. I've had the opportunity to attend a number of community events, town halls, and just in our engagement day to day. And what we consistently say is there's a lot of things that are going really well for us in terms of our proactive work, but that visibility and enhanced traffic safety. I know that we are looking to reanimate our municipal traffic positions here in Penticton as our resources are, constantly impacted, but where we know that's a priority and we'd really like to see that happen this year. We've been able to train all of our officers in e-ticketing, which basically is way more effective, way more efficient, and we're seeing lots of error. So that is also good. The purchase of new traffic enforcement equipment, modernizing our accessibility to that, and looking at the ability to get the license plate readers as well is something that we're looking into as well for 2026. It's an expensive purchase item. We can afford it. We just have to get the approval to do that. So we are working on that. I'm happy to showcase that we are 4 new sergeants are in community. We did a social media showcase of all the new sergeants in the South Okanagan. But what is new for Penticton is that each watch will have a sergeant running them, which means more supervision and oversight. And yet now we also have a supervisor. So your corporal is an additional resource on the road, but then that experience and oversight, mitigating risk, and just also pushing that proactive visibility. Safe schools updates was a priority for us, always in play, something that we always look at the beginning of each year. And so we're looking to get those completed for our school district area. And I know that the regional areas are also making sure that those are all complete. and continue with the new community policing positions, just really looking at our crime prevention initiatives throughout the region and where there are opportunities to do additional crime prevention, whether it's through social media messaging, being present and visible at community events, and just looking at being innovative and creative as it relates to cameras, installations, lighting installations for crime prevention, and what opportunities exist where we can maybe apply for some grants to help fund that through C-STEP funding from the province. So lots of innovation, really excited about some of the activities, but as I reflect it now 2 years in our communities, I am really impressed with the work our teams have led with the constant pressures and demands. And I just, as I close out for any questions, is just a reminder to everybody that this year FIFA is going to be taking place in our province. We will be hosting in Vancouver a number of games. And what does that mean? It means as your federal police agency, we will be impacted with terms of asks and obviously priorities of maintaining public safety, being able to answer calls for service, and being able to make sure that people come to the office, there's someone there to be able to engage with. That remains a primary focus for myself and our senior leadership team. And we will be ensuring that your communities are policed safely, feel supported, all while FIFA is going on. They will ask for our specialized teams. We have members on the TAC troop, we have crisis negotiators, and we have specialized response teams. And so those will be the initial asks, and then we'll kind of go from there. So any questions? That's the presentation for Q4.
Does anybody have any questions?
Yeah, Director. Thank you for the presentation. Just a general question about the increase in shoplifting. I see some, there's some red ink on the shoplifting lines, but and others it's not been an effect. But do we know what they're actually shoplifting? Is there any record of that? I know that I've seen claims of that in security presentations, but I'm just wondering if there's anything that the RCMP have on that.
Well, we haven't mined the data, but I know we do have these conversations as a team. I mean, we always monitor our highest impacted stores in the community and sort of look. There are grocery stores in there. So food is one of the constant items. Liquor is also another item. And then we also know some of our big box stores where clothing. We just had a file last night, and it was noted in the watch report that they still had the security tags, and these were clothing items from one of the larger clothes stores in town. So I would say food is one, or a place, let's use it as an example, like Superstore has a multitude of services that they offer. So food and other items.
Okay, thank you. And just a plug for the launch of the Intimate Partner Violence Awareness Campaign. That's Tuesday, 9 o'clock at the RCMP detachment.
Anybody else? Yep, Director
Taylor. Right there. Just wondering if we could, maybe you've done it, but I can't remember, an org chart that just sort of, like you talk about watch commanders and
Yeah.
areas of responsibility.
You'd like that translated?
Yeah.
No problem. In my next presentation, I'm happy to do a visual of how we're organized. And actually, if you'd like it, it's already produced. So just kind of anonymize the names and the positions. And we can do that for all of our areas. So we have a unique lingo in policing, and sometimes I take for granted, lots of acronyms and so sometimes just call me out on it instantly, and I'll provide the full name of what something is. But no problem. I'll get out an org chart, and happy to send it out to you. But then also present it in our next report.
Thanks. And just on the recovery of stolen vehicles, just thinking that that might be an area where we could have some further discussion. Just what is the policy for removal of vehicles out of the bush when they're recovered? What happens? Where to go? I'm dealing with one right now that's sort of stuck halfway, sitting by the side of the road, not going anywhere.
I think that's
and the alternative is, do we leave them there? So, yeah. When we mentioned this to the AG, she was in town just on a drive. And her comment was she had no idea that there was even an issue. So we spend a lot of time talking about encampments and stuff like that that are urban issues, but I think their awareness of rural issues is pretty, and I'm not sure that, I mean, maybe all the policies are in place, but I'd like to hear from you whether there's further work required possibly.
Yeah, and I'm happy to have that discussion with you also offline as to what specifically the circumstances around what you're referencing, but happy to have that discussion. I mean, if the vehicle's on a numbered highway, it's insured, I mean, we can have it towed. You should have a on-call tow company. If it's not insured and it's just an abandoned vehicle, I mean, having that removed as well. And then the person that does the towing, they try and find the last registered owner and notify them. And if that's not the case, then ultimately it gets, after 30 days, it can be crushed and sold for whatever the recyclable is. If it is on Crown land or a provincial land abandoned, and then the onus is going to be on to have that vehicle removed. Is it polluting, leaking oil? Is it near a stream? All of those considerations, those nuances make it more complex for sure. And I would say in the rural areas, that's probably going to be the largest challenge. I mean, an abandoned vehicle, if it's a recovered stolen vehicle, it's been reported by police and it's a police file, then, you know, that's something we take on. But if it's left and abandoned, it's not a police matter, then that becomes something that responsibility of the regional district areas or the municipalities, if it's considered something that they don't want there. It's abandoned property. So that's a very high level summary, but happy to have that discussion even more specifically on your circumstance.
So I got two more questions, but before we go to that, just to follow up on this. So right now we're dealing with, I'm hoping it came out yesterday, a car that's in a creek. This has been ongoing for over a week. There's, you know, like jurisdiction football. It's ridiculous. So if there's a way that we can all work together to put pressure on whoever we need to put pressure on, because now we're going to deal with all those fluids are in the water. You can see it. It's just sitting there. And then the other one is the follow-up to the point you said that if it's on the highway right away or then you guys have the ability to tow it.
Well, please correct me. I am not a traffic expert. Brian was here and he can tell me.
This is happening more and more. Like we're getting
Yeah.
abandoned
I'll
vehicles.
get Jake. I admit when I've got my strengths and weaknesses, and knowing the highway information is not necessarily a superpower.
Thank you.
Sorry. So if it's on a numbered highway, if it's an abandoned vehicle, the province has just changed in the last couple of years. The province has given funding to the road contractors that are basically hired to maintain those roads. So they've given them funding to basically okay a tow on that vehicle. So prior to that, the issue is that the tow companies don't have to tow if they don't want to, right? They're businesses. So there's a lot of vehicles in the past where they've tried or where we've asked them to tow it and they don't receive any funding for that. There's no one to pay for that tow or for the salvage, right? To get rid of it. So they're stuck with it sitting in their lot for could be years, and space in their lot equals money because they'd rather have that space for a vehicle that's impounded that they're receiving money for. So that has changed a bit. Time again, province funds to cut that contractor or provide some funds so they can authorize a tow on an abandoned vehicle. If it's an insured vehicle, then that's different. ICBC pre-authorizes us in a sense. We can have that vehicle towed, and the tow contractor will get paid for that. The difficulty comes into the RDOS areas or the rural areas, provincial areas where it's an abandoned vehicle, like the ma'am said, that's been left there. It's not a police matter, and who is going to pay for that? The tow company will listen to us if we ask them to remove it, but we don't have the funding to pay for that. And where, they don't want to tow it, they're going to get paid. So something has to be worked out, whether it's the province or through the regional districts, of who is going to pay for that removal. And each situation is going to be different. In a creek, is obviously, it's a hazard. We want to take that care, get that taken care of. But again, it's a big expense to tow that. So who's going to pay for that recovery?
Yeah, because we had a car that burned up just outside of town. It was left there for, I think it was 2 months, right on the road right away. And then I think it was Lower Smoke Indian Band helped us get that cleaned up. There was a motorhome in the river that was there for months, and Lower Smoke got involved and helped us get it moved. We now have one on Old Town Road where they just drove it out there, parked it out there, parked it on the side of the road. The back end's kind of open and it's sitting there abandoned. It's on the road right away. So like, who jurisdiction is that? AIM or is that?
So talk to the highway contractor that has a contract for your area, for those roads. Talk to them or talk to the police and say, hey, I understand that that the highways contractor can give approval to have this towed. Once we receive that, or once the tow company receives that, they're basically told the funding's there. They'll tow it and they'll get paid for that. Rivers are different.
Environment.
Well, not only that, but we have to remember that sometimes we have to let the water level come down. It depends on the time of year. It all comes down to the safety of the operator as well. A lot of them maybe not trained to go into the river to hook it up, or people that are trained will tell us that, hey, yeah, it's a hazard, but it's just not safe for us to go in there at this time. So sometimes things will wait a bit longer.
I got Director Coyne and then Director Roberts, please.
Yeah, I have two questions. First question is the intimate partner violence. Do you believe that is increasing, or are people just reporting that more often now that RCMP, I hate to say this, but they seem to have a softer approach now?
Really good question. And I don't know that I can give you a definite answer. I mean, anecdotally, it will just have to be anecdotally. That is a consideration. We did reach out to the South Okanagan Women in Needs to do a comparison to sort of what they were seeing. And because we noticed a significant increase, really, which came up back in September, October, when I had the opportunity to talk to Mayor Bloomfield about this, which is really what initiated our program, our campaign, because we saw such a huge increase. And we wanted to know if our partners were doing something different in community. We touched base, obviously, with our own victim services. So I think it is a combination of both, in terms of our more trauma-informed, culturally sensitive services, our effort to be more supportive, our efforts around third-party reporting. I would like to hope that it's having an impact in gaining that trust in community for people to have the courage to come forward. I think society has changed in terms of stigmas around being a victim of intimate partner violence. I think there's more access to social media. And so you can do those own inquiries on your own if you're trying to figure out what's going to happen if I go to police, or if I can't afford to live on my own. People now can go on to various platforms and see what services are out there and available in each of our communities. So that could be impacting. And I also think that there's other things that are impacting it. We know our economy is definitely, people are struggling to make ends meet, and that can cause disruption in the home. I think increased, our drug crisis And addiction issues are increasing, and with that can often come dismantling of relationships and more violent in relationships. So there's a number of considerations. I can't give you a definitive answer, but those are some of the considerations that I have when we're talking about intimate partner violence.
Okay, thank you. The second question, and I don't know if this is the right place to even ask this question. It's rather political.
Okay.
The issue of illegal cigarettes. When I leave my house and I drive to Karamias, for example, there's 3 smoke shops on the side of the road between here and Karamias that now are selling cigarettes more so than the other goods that they sell. We only have 2 stores between legitimate stores that have business licenses and operate between here and there. Are we is the RCMP actively working on this, or is it just kind of a when it happens that they collect somebody on the side of the road for something else and they have illegal cigarettes?
Anybody?
I know it's the elephant in the room, but
Yeah, I think you can see some hesitation on us trying to figure out how to answer this question. But if it's in terms of like the illegal cannabis shops or cannabis shops without a license, things like that, there is a community safety unit. It's independent from the RCMP that investigates those. And regarding the illegal sales of cigarettes, I don't really know how to answer that one. Essentially, we're focusing on a primary mandate of public safety. Fair answer, and it's not our number one priority for certain. And a lot of it is more of a business license issue than it is necessarily a criminal matter. If it's cigarettes, although it may fit a criminal realm, it's not our detachment's priority.
What I can tell you, I've had discussions with our the acronym of FSOC, Federal Serious and Organized Crime. We do have this provincial entity in the Southeast District, and I know that is more their primary mandate in terms of larger scale organized crime or just huge quantity of this type of activity. So I know that they more focus more on it on the larger scale. That being said, sometimes there's those opportunities where, if there's a vehicle stopped by our BC Highway Patrol or by one of our frontline officers, and those investigations do ensue because there's a large quantity of like improperly stamped, licensed, packaged cigarettes. But I don't know if you want to weigh in on it, Lori, Sergeant Rock.
I'll probably have more info later. Just in relation to the cigarettes. Obviously, we had a file in Oliver that I'll touch on later. And again, I think that's going to be an interesting one for us because we are going to be recommending charges for someone who did a bunch of illegal cigarettes. So I think in talking to local crime, I think that this is kind of an explored territory for them within the courts too. So hopefully, again, we'll have a bit more structure than it looks like, but we do obviously encounter it frequently.
And we're also starting to see a lot more reports, and including with my officers, where vehicles are stopped and legal cigarettes are in plain view. That gives us grounds right there to search the vehicle for more. And our members are aware of what's going on, and they're looking for it. And so when you see vehicles and you see in a vehicle, we're often getting other stuff with that as well. So it is something we're active on. Again, maybe not so much going after the store itself directly at this time, but there have been in different areas, and it's just a matter of coming together with a plan and how do we want to tackle this.
So if you have a pack of tax-free smokes and you shouldn't have them, then you're probably going to be expected to have more done.
Correct.
That's essentially what you're saying. Director Roberts, and then we're going to move on to the next part of the presentation.
Perfect, thank you. I think a lot of the issues that are brought up, of course, I can just say ditto. But what I wanted to reach out in a public format is just to give kudos to the members of the detachments. From my other role, as a paramedic, I spend a lot of time on difficult scenes with your members. And I just like to, again, provide kudos to them in regards to their professionalism and the level of empathy, especially in some very difficult crises of late. But again, the multitude of decades that I've worked with your officers, really proud of how they've been handling themselves and dealing and supporting community in their time of need. So kudos to them and to yourselves. Thank you.
I appreciate the feedback. Make sure everybody hears about it. And then if we're going to move to this next presentation, I just have one slide. Sergeant Evans from BC Highway Patrol sends his regrets, but he did send us some valuable statistics that I know everybody in the room would like to see. So it's the last slide of my slide deck. No, I know.
Hello, Staff Sergeant Pollock through the chair. So these are the traffic stats we have on the screen from BCA Highway Patrol in our area. So there's both the Q3 and there's current month in there as well, but Q3 and year to date is what we have highlighted. So you can see there's, for example, Q3 there was from BC Highway Patrol 255 contacts in Kermias, 175 in Oliver. 157 in the Soyuz, 902 in the Penticton area, 427 in the Princeton area, and 231 in the Summerland area. I noticed in the Summerland area, they've spent quite a bit of time at slide zone, enforcing that, and generally through the 70 zone runs through. And then you can see on the right the year to date ones as well. So year to date, 6,162 contacts in our area from BC Highway Patrol.
I'd just like to highlight that I was talking with our district officer around the support we get from BC Highway Patrol, and BC Highway Patrol works hard throughout the province. But what I'd like to highlight is the unique relationship that we have, and Sergeant Evans' ability to attend this RDOS meeting. This is not a common practice, and so just that he gives us the time to give everybody a bit of face time and to show that provincial support. I just want to highlight that we are a unique group that get that benefit. So thank you again to Sergeant Evans. And then just like to highlight some of the initiatives, but of note during Q4 was the Light Up BC Impaired Driving campaign, which is just a dedicated response provincially to lighting up the province and addressing obviously impaired driving during the holiday season. Over to you for the rest of the presentations. Any questions on that?
Director Bush.
I just want to ask about purple fuel. I noticed a lot of people filling up now the purple fuel that aren't farmers, and it used to be a big thing, but is it just we just let it go now?
Yeah, the smokes. I haven't honestly heard that come up. I don't honestly know if that's a major problem. I mean, I've got jerry cans of purple fuel for my boat in the summer. I guess they take my word for it that it's going in my boat. Yeah, I certainly haven't looked into it or done any projects to track where people are going with the purple fuel. I don't know if that's an issue. I don't know. Oh, sorry, I don't have the best answer for you.
Director Gilbert.
Yes, thank you, the chair. Just a question in regards to these numbers for the contacts. Like, that's pretty high for 1 month for 410 for Penticton, and I'm kind of just wondering, is that just an average number that we always see, or are we starting to see a tick up in what do you call it in regards to contacts?
Well, the month of December is the final, is that what they're referring to? So that would have been the Light Up BC Impaired Driving Campaign initiative. So I do know that they set up in the Penticton area. So that could be the reason. Unfortunately, Brian's not here for me to be able to really give you the best response to that, but that's just, I propose that that's probably part of the reason.
I suspect so, and part of that is not just their officers working harder that particular time. Part of Light Up BC, there's additional funding through the province for some overtime shifts, so they bring in a bunch of extra overtime for Christmas party season to focus on improved driving enforcement and things like that. So there's additional people on the road in December, so that could be part of that spike.
We're probably going to see it right now with the distracted driving.
Thank you. So I will speak to Summerland's on top. I'll speak to Summerland first. Sergeant McGeorge is on holidays this week. I always encourage that in March instead of July if that's something he's willing to do. So Sergeant McGeorge has been busy in the community working on a few community initiatives. One thing is the newly formed suicide prevention working group. There was recently a wellness fair at the high school. It's been doing some, especially with the recent tragedy in Tumber Ridge, been doing a lot of school visits and basically community things. And going over some of the lockdown drills and things like that at school. There's been some effort on, as I mentioned, speed enforcement in Trout Creek and Prairie Valley and generally the highway through town that the detachment's also been working on. There was, actually I wasn't aware of this one, but there was a rash of graffiti in town that they identified the youth responsible and referred that to restorative justice. Regarding the stats, there was some break-in enters, which apparently most of them or multiple calls were to a specific abandoned residence that they've worked with the estate to resolve and had no calls since working on some issues at that abandoned residence. Regarding the intimate partner violence, the numbers are actually down a little bit, but there was essentially 2 couples that were generating a significant number of those numbers for intimate partner violence. And regarding the uptick in the sexual offenses, not getting into too much detail on those, essentially most of them were cases where the people are known to each other. Sergeant McGeorge has been working with some willing volunteers to advance a Citizens on Patrol or community policing initiative, and they've been going through some of the application process and working with the program. And the community policing, regional community policing has been done a presentation in the high school on justice and what that program looks like as they're commonly used defenses there. So been working on that. And there's a new member in community from Terrace, if there's a new face walking around. And that's it for some questions on it.
Director Holmes.
Yeah, just a quick comment, which I mentioned. We met yesterday, so I don't have a lot to say, but just really appreciate Sergeant McGeorge's effort to be present in the community, and I think it's known, especially in the schools. I think they're making an effort to normalize the RCMP coming into school. So it used to be if a student saw an officer in the school, they thought, "Oh, what's happened? What's the problem?" Right? Whereas now, with those regular visits that he's making to the schools, it's become more normalized to see them there. And, so I think it's a really great. Appreciate that.
Okay, I'll move on to Princeton Detachment. Princeton Detachment has recently got Sergeant Rogers in place, which I understand the local elected officials would already have be familiar with him, met him. Apparently, he's been making his rounds. So Sergeant McGeorge has been Sergeant McGeorge, that's Summerland. Rogers has been selling himself in Princeton. There's been recently we had let's see here. Well, the CFSCU gang task force was through town, but that's actually this quarter. But I've already said it now. They recently went through town and met some of the kind of more prolific offenders going through town, introduced themselves, as Sergeant McGeorge has been doing as well. He's established some more regular meetings with the USIP, and I understand with Mayor Coyne. There's been a couple of field trips the detachment he's helped facilitate, just trying to increase those ties with the schools, and a talk on impaired driving at the high school. Sergeant McGeorge, or Sergeant, I did it again, Sergeant Rogers and the members have been just kind of going around town and just trying to meet with the businesses and kind of get that name and face out there. Looking at the stats, there was an increase in breaking in residents, which is essentially vacation properties or rural properties that are not full-time properties. So I'll be speaking to Sergeant Rogers about that to see what kind of messaging we can get out, and maybe some kind of, if it's neighbors watching neighbors' property, some kind of messaging that way, see what we can do about that. Regarding the sexual assaults, they are slightly up. I do note that the numbers do include the called BC ICE files, the online child pornography investigations. Sometimes we have a couple of those at once, and that can cause some of those numbers. And there is also there's another new face. There's a new member from Depot that just started, I believe it was last week. There as well, and restorative justice. There's one matter going through referral there and hearing in Princeton, supported by the restorative justice regional position.
We're super happy to have now Sergeant Rogers back in the community. Great assets in the community. Communication is it's through the roof. It's great. We're in communication regularly. So I just want to say thanks for that. He's doing a great job so far. Bringing the gang force in, shook up the whole town. Wonderful. Everybody was a buzz about it and trying to figure out what was going on and what. The uttering threats one, that seems, if I'm correct, it seems to be one gentleman who's kind of a ongoing problem. So just wondered how we can deal with the repeat on these things, because he's known in the valley, and he's not from Princeton, but he's decided to make Princeton part-time, and when he is in town, we have a lot of issues with him. So just anything we can do to help with that. I know our bylaws working local RCMP to try to keep on top of it, but he's a lot.
We know. One of the things that I think would be a consideration as it relates to advocacy when we talk about attendance at UBCM is for especially areas like us as a regional police model is I know there's been lots of cutbacks with provincial funds, but really looking at a regional integrated crisis response team and providing those services from a regional perspective, and the ability to have that service and what the benefits would look like. Not necessarily impacting what we have here in community, but creating that sort of framework in the regional areas, because being able to serve the smaller municipalities, but knowing the value that that brings. So no, that's not a right now answer, but that is probably some advocacy work that I would suggest when people are attending UBCM and what that could look like. I know that our district officer, Chief Superintendent Bear, is looking at that prioritization.
Director Roberts, and then Sue.
Yes, thank you. Again, I haven't heard anything. Of course, I hear a lot of stuff from the citizens of the community of Headley, and of course, being blended, connected to Princeton. I'm hoping that Sergeant Rogers would be with, and it'd be great even with the new person out of depot to kind of do a community connect in Headley. I know a lot of times our outlying communities, like an area H being, and far flung from the bigger towns, they feel isolated. They tend to deal with more of the fear issues, and developing that relationship with the RCMP is paramount. So I'm hoping that there's a reach out, and I'd be willing to partake in anything that he's interested in that community. Thank you.
Yes, noted. I think we had established some connections there with Sergeant Potter, and we probably need to reconnect them now with Sergeant Rogers. Make sure he's well connected in Headley as well as Princeton. I agree.
Yeah, we can facilitate a joint meeting between all the partners.
Thank you. I might be jumping the gun because Sergeant Beta hasn't spoken yet, but I'm concerned about the uttering threats, which has been brought up. It seems to be in Oliver, Osoyoos, Karamias, and Princeton that were higher than other places, and that is that concerns me. And you might have already answered that when you answered Princeton, but I just noticed that on all four of those. The other thing that I wanted to ask about that might involve all of us is you mentioned that FIFA is going to be a concern in the province this summer. And it seems to be at the time when there are several town events. I'm thinking in Osoyoos Cherry Fiesta. And I know last year Sergeant Beta was very good about bringing in extra officers to help during those events that I'm sure many communities have. Is that going to affect our ability to get extra help this summer in every community when FIFA is on? FIFA seems to be taking over the world, and I'm not sure that we. No, no, hurling. Anyway, thank you. I just had those two questions.
So I'm sure that FIFA doesn't want to be seen as a concern, as a celebration of a pretty spectacular sporting event. There are pressures that we will all face. We've already had in our particular area, because we have the most amount of resources, we've started to have our discussions around summer resourcing and what nuances. So I know that we have very experienced sergeants here in the area, and just looking at community events and getting out our overtime requests, provincial support team requests, sliding resources, filling in the gaps. Jay seems to have a good relationship with a few Corps officers that really liked to come down and hang out in Oliver and Osoyoos. So does Marie have her back pocket full of people that she likes to call in as well. But those community events, we started having those discussions on what's taking place locally here and adjusting some of our shifts to make sure that we cover those pressures. That's something we have here. Smaller detachments do not, but I know that we will be looking at that, and that's probably already underway. I don't want to speak for them, but I'm quite confident that it is. And if we do identify some gaps and pressures, we'll have to regionally look at what that looks like for us to slide people around to fill in gaps.
Yeah, I'll just touch. I'm not concerned about resourcing levels for us. The South Okanagan is a place, as we all know, that people want to come to. So I've already have probably a dozen people emailing me looking to come to work in our area for August, July. So FIFA, yeah, will take resources, but there's still going to be a lot of people that want to. They want to come to build the community. So I can't blame them, and yeah, so I'm not. And if it's a problem, I just might recommend that instead of fireworks, we just kind of sparklers. That's what it is.
So in Costin, Main Street, Costin, we had a truck drive into somebody's house. And I was just wondering, do we know if that's targeted attack or was that just somebody lose control?
Yeah, I know it as well, but I'll let you go if you know better than I do. Yeah. I believe there was substance use was a factor in that one.
Yeah, and it wasn't targeted.
No, it wasn't targeted. No.
Poor decisions by an individual time hit a house. And I will say the responser was working that night. BC Highway Patrol, amazing first response there. Community, we had to slide some resources up to help support that file, and just that quick response time. Again, it can be challenging sometimes depending on whether to respond, but amazing response by bulldozer, controlling that, being able to locate the individual, dog handler coming out. So, yeah, a bad situation, but it was a good investigation to be able to deal with that scenario. So definitely not targeted.
Yeah, it definitely wasn't targeted. It was
Thank
poor
you.
decision making, poor driving, substance use.
Anybody else? Okay, we'll continue because we're behind time now.
Sorry, my last go here is Karamias. Karamias recently had the Cram to Cruiser event and toy drive. They've been also had a restorative justice program meeting with the high school there to discuss restorative justice and how that program works. I have a note regarding the uttering threats on this case that 1/3 of them are involving youth, which I believe is the trend across between Karamias older and Soyuz. And I believe that's different from the Princeton thing. And there's a new member also for Karamias from Depot who's being trained, supported by Oliver to help train them because there's not that many members in Karamias. And regarding the stats, the biggest one was, the uttering threats, which is mostly involving youth. Not that that's better, but it's a little bit of a picture to provide. I didn't have a ton of questions on Karamias.
Just a quick question. In Karamias, the active hours of policing are 9 in the morning until 9 in the evening. If there's a call in the middle of the night, how do you deal through dispatch as to what that call? Say it's a gun call at 3 a.m. Where do the members come from? Members living in the community.
The hours have changed. That was a temporary issue we had there. They're back to doing their old schedule now, so they're on until 3 in the morning again. There are members that live. There's at least a couple that are spending time in the community now. One is looking to relocate there, and then they come from as close as they are. I'm a little reluctant to say how far away they are, just for safety reasons and stuff in the community. But they respond. I can talk more offline on that.
Anybody else?
What I also can say is you used a gun complaint, shots fired. We do have Penticton is on cover throughout the night as well. And just ethically and morally, if we hear officers in need throughout the region, we respond. And so there is that consideration as well. And we are in a position now where the schedule is got more coverage into the night. So we do have that backup from Oliver and Soyuz, and also from Penticton. So that is unfortunately with rural policing in Canada, that is just the way schedules are, and we do not have a policy where we can force people to live in communities that they police. It's that we used to do that back in the good old days when I was a young constable, but that is not the case now. So those requirements are no longer in place unless in an isolated post.
Okay.
Sorry, I'll be quick here. I know we're behind the Q4 stats are something I always like because it gives us the actual year-over-year picture, the final year end. So our violent crime stats are up 22%. That's 8 files. What I just want to remind you about is when we have assaults and intimate part of violence on one graph, a lot of those files are actually you'll have an assault and an IPV are the same incident, so you'll get 2 stats out of 1 incident, right? So 8 files more this year compared to, or 2025 compared to 2024 is actually just a low number, so fairly on par. Property crime as well, fairly on par, although we have seen a decrease across the board on almost everything other than theft from vehicles, where we went up 5 to 15 from 10. So again, pretty much on par with everything there. Just touch quickly on a community policing office out of Penticton here that helps the regional areas. So they did 2 talks in Osoyoos. One was on internet and personal safety, and another one was on fraud. They did that at a couple of our strata units, and they also assist us with the restorative justice file. One thing I do want to touch on too is I just want to point out here that the town has helped advertise this for us. On March 30th, we are going to be holding a town hall, meeting at the Senior Center at 6 p.m. And the main topic we'll discuss there will be the legalities and legislation around e-bikes. I know that was something that some people asked questions about last time we were here. So I've had one of my newer members do a bunch of research and become an SME in that. So he has a presentation that we'll be presenting, and then I'll be available for general questions about policing after that. If the other areas want to talk on e-bikes, I have no problem with having my member that's provide those attachments with his presentation, or possibly, if time permits, having him presentation with in conjunction with like for example, Oliver, if they want one, organize that with Sergeant Rock, put that on it as well. or come to the one in this case.
Director McGrath.
Thank you. As well as e-bikes, are you going to talk about scooters as well? That seems to be a really big issue with personal scooters, because there are kids driving on sidewalks and not wearing helmets and going as fast as they can, and it's pretty scary. So I'm sure that'll come up as well.
Yeah, it's all part of the presentation. I just say e-bikes, but it's those electric motorized
Thank you
vehicles.
very much.
Would it be possible to either record that or live stream it so that we don't have to drive to Osoyoos for that? Because I think all of us would be interested in that.
Yeah, I don't know if the town has the ability to can help us out with it. Snorson, maybe they can record that and put that out for us.
Sorry, I'm not sure whether we do or not, but we are holding it in the gym, so there is lots of space for people to come if you want to send somebody. We could talk to the town and see if it's possible, but I'm not sure.
How about we come to Princeton and do the presentation for you? Yeah, I think it's something that we can do through our community policing.
Yeah, and the only thing that the way the presentation is put together right now, it talks about our local bylaws as well, and which roads you can use on, where you can't use them on, like you can't use them on a numbered highway, or certain areas if a bylaw says you can't. So it might be different in your town, that specific presentation, but the meat and potatoes will be the same.
I think this is something all our communities, so we'll customize it for each of our communities. And if it's not a actual presentation, it's some messaging and or some brochures or some notifications you can post on your own social media to address your own particular community's needs.
All right. Hello, everyone. I'm Lori Rock. I am the detachment commander out at Oliver. I just want to start, I know, cognizant of time as well. Been down in Oliver for just over a year now. So again, just want to say how much I've enjoyed it. I appreciate the supports from your hall. We have been busy. You can see in our stats, calls for service in the municipality have definitely gone up. We have a great team down there. Campbell came down just recently. So Jackson and our members down there have definitely been working hard. We talk about uttering threats files and kind of the same thing, I think, for all fall this year with their check well-beings have been just a couple individuals in community that have been a little unwell. Again, some great comments about the integrated crisis team coming down there. So we have utilized the ACT team a bit in Penticton. There is a South Okanagan contingent to that. So there are some individuals coming down and supporting our communities and have been dealing with some of our local individuals, specifically which does alleviate stuff for us, because if someone's certified, we have to bring them to Penticton. So it's definitely been a good proactive first step in that. Break and enters, shoplifting. We're looking at October, November, December, typically Christmas time. We've already mentioned that. Thefts, groceries, alcohol. One specific individual, Oliver, responsible for 10 separate shoplifting incidences. So again, getting rid of that, we were able to compile a package for Crown and add that accordingly. The other aim threats for the rural location, the RDOS, this might be a bit of my fault, but just really engaging the relationship with the Okanagan Correctional Center. So one individual in that location was responsible for 75% of those uttering threats. So when you look at our statistics, it's one individual in there. So it's threats against inmates, threats over the phone, it's letters. So we're working obviously with that, with the institution to try to see how we can potentially get this individual out or hold them accountable. So again, that's kind of what our stats are going for that. Break and enters, rurally, we're looking at a lot of storage sheds. We're looking at propane tanks. It's a great community in the sense it's a lot of farming community. There's been a lot of local break and enters, working a lot with the owners and trying to tackle those. Again, reporting those are really important, which then bolsters the fact that we have done some investigations, we've done some search warrants in Oliver, and hopefully being able to recover some properties, tools, some ATVs, some trailers. Talking about Revoy initially earlier, we do have some files that we were able to, understandably, resource-wise, we have to rely on Penticton to help us with their crime prevention unit, street enforcement down. There has been some proactive investigations that we have dealt with a lot of Revoy offenders or some people that are causing issues. They are time-consuming, but we're looking at the long game there. So hopefully we'll have some media on that shortly for some charges, some positive charges that'll help reduce the crime in the communities for that. Emergency response unit, they've been in town a little bit too. Again, open communication with the town and the RDOS. Really appreciate your support, and Chief Louis too, just trying to tackle some of those issues. Joanne Rupenfeld's also been in our community doing some fraud talks at local senior places and some school talks. We have a couple active restorative justice, just some use of windows in the schools. So again, try to utilize those kind of resources where we can. And we've also utilized so we do have some active bulletins on Crime Stoppers just to try to solve some of our stuff.
Okay, I got a list here. I got Director Taylor first, then Director Johansson, and then Joe.
Just from a rural perspective, looking at the shoplifting, and presumably a lot of that is also food related. Number one, and number two, are the people doing it are long-time residents or mostly traveling through?
I think the individual that we're specifically dealing with, and I told you about the one individual, local individual, food. Some of it, again, when you're dealing with addiction, substance use, some of it is for resale, just to kind of support a habit. So that's hard to, again, say what's what, but I think like the general consensus is a lot of people are struggling as well. It's about accountability, right? So for me, it's about holding that individual accountable, regardless of what they miss.
Thanks, Chair. Yeah, I think we've done a pretty good job in Oliver with our bylaw services and bylaws dealing with problem residences and making sure camps don't get established. But my concern is we've pushed that out to the rural community. And I'm just wondering if you've got any comments or thoughts on what the RDOS could do different, do better, to help address those challenges. Maybe our bylaws, maybe bylaw support. Anything like that. With the encampments, we have a pretty serious, large camp establishing just outside the town boundary. It's the US. It's been there for at least a couple of years now. just seems to be getting bigger and maybe attracting more people. And of course, some pretty significant problem incidences of rural communities as well. Just wondering what the RDOS can do to help support policing in those rural communities, like the municipalities are doing within their boundaries.
I think the one issue, and we have discussed this offline, and it's kind of exactly what Penticton's going through right now. So it's going to be obviously a multifaceted. We're going to have to get tons of agencies in to deal with those encampments, to deal with those individuals, and look how we can better support them. I think most of them have been in community for a while. Naturally, we see the transition from maybe Oliver to Penticton to whatever. So we will have to obviously meet about that. You know, fire chief want to address some of the safety concerns that go along with these encampments. So we definitely will have to have meetings about that, and obviously open to however we can support that initiative. As for the problem residents in the rural, I think we're doing a pretty good job on that. I think we've got some really switched on members in the detachment. And again, when we see something, we've executed quite a bit of search warrants for them. And again, when we know that people are living there, we do take the effort to try to be proactive. But we utilize probation a lot. They have an office in the courthouse down there. Probably chat with probation daily, because again, to tackle some of these problem residences and people, we need the support of all the people in the community supporting them. As for Amanda dealing with hers, the abandoned properties, those ones definitely I've been touching on. You guys have a great nuisance property bylaw within the town. Obviously, we've discussed possibly looking at rural, RDOS, kind of adapting some sort of bylaw within you guys to kind of tackle these properties.
Thank you through the chair. I just wanted to thank Sergeant Rock for continued efforts in the community. And her clear lines of communication has been great. I think you're doing a good job. My question was basically what is just these problem properties. They become an issue, and how can we help you tackle that so the nuisance bylaw might be something to look at.
And again, it's about the communities reporting these to us. Obviously, the problem properties we're dealing with a lot of criminal component to that. So for us, dealing with these individuals, the long game for us is the accountability piece, and some of these people hopefully jail, and looking at kind of the long game for that. Obviously, people who own these properties need to be accountable who they're renting them to and who they're allowing to stay there. So that's kind of where a bylaw will give us a little bit more enforcement action and a little bit more clarity on kind of how we can do that. Because I think at the end of the day, when people are faced with a financial type of regulation on that, I think sometimes people listen to that. But reporting's huge. Like I said, people are minimizing a lot of stuff that's going on, but a lot of these break-in and stuff, like, we're taking it seriously and we're acting. But as for the encampments, again, that's going to be a whole session that I think Penticton's going to have to probably kind of give us some pointers on as well.
Yeah. Go ahead, Director Brookfield, and then Johansson.
So in response to that request, I can say that the encampment question, the first thing to do is to establish who owns the land that the encampment's on, and then you can do enforcement actions, because that is one big part with the regional district, what it can do as a response. If they don't own the land that it's on, and chances are they don't, so it's either highways land, so then it's provincial government, or if it's private land, then the bylaws to deal with this, as Laurie said. Question though on the stats, I heard that an inmate at the prison was responsible for a large number of calls that are on this report. Because we rely on these reports to gauge the safety of the community, but the correction center is kind of a community within the community. So is it fair to report? Is it fair to record calls to the correction center on the stats for the town of Alberta or the district? This one again, yeah.
I was actually going to mention that when Dory's given her presentation, that we have to remember that a lot of her stats do come from the correctional center. But it's a double-edged sword. If we don't report on them, like these are calls that our officers are going to. So the community needs to know that what our officers are doing. This takes up time, right? So my only suggestion, and this would be something for the man to decide on, but my only suggestion would be that maybe we break down, we separate them, so that you know the stats for the correctional center still show, because it's important to show what our officers are doing, but the community has a better picture of what's actually happening right in the town or the RDOS versus the overall.
Absolutely. I think that is tricky because when you look at the crime severity index that comes out and what your crime rate is, those impact that area in Oliver, and it sort of can misrepresent or skew what is actually happening in a community. I know when Sergeant Wigglesworth was there, we worked as it relates to just creating an atom, which is how we pull data just around that originate within the prison walls. And so I do think we have the capability to sort of hive that off and maybe look at that as just its own separate box and pull it out of the total stats, and then you can see what you're really dealing with separate. So I'll talk with Rachel and Lori and sort of see, and then we'll have a bit of a consultation around what that could look like and go from there. But you're bang on.
Just before I go to Director Johansson, if you were able to do that, that would give us the ability to help support you in resource allocation. Because if a lot of if a lot of your resources in Oliver are going to the correctional facility, then I think we as a group can then support you in saying, well, it's taking up 80%, whatever the time given, it's taking up X amount of time and resource allocation, then we can lobby the province for something, right? And then focus on the things you need to focus on.
Yeah, just to clarify too. So we have quarterly meetings with the deputy warden there, and obviously she's privy to this stats too coming from here. And just there is a bit of a buffer in the sense is she will chat with me about some files too. So a lot of the stuff this one individual is causing issues there. So I think statistically through the year it hasn't really been this high. Mitigate it, but again, it's a good point to be able to kind of isolate it a little bit to give you guys a bigger picture of kind of the accuracy of it, and same from them with inside, right? So they're trying to combat a lot of unwell people within and trying to support the staff and the morale within the jail as well. So thanks for the comment on that.
Just a quick question actually to our CAO. Just wondering if the RDOS would be taking the lead on dealing with that encampment that is in the RDOS south of Oliver. Oliver is there to support you, but I think since the camp is not in Oliver, it would be the RDOS. And also, how do we start looking at maybe safe premises bylaws in the regional district as well that could maybe help the UCP deal with problem residences?
Wow. I will look into it and get back to the board.
Well, no, and I have a follow-up to that, and that's, so Princeton's camps right now are in Area H as well. So I think we have to have a bigger conversation at the region on how we're going to coordinate all of our efforts, because as we try to, deal with stuff in town, they go to the regional district, they go to the town land, it's nobody's jurisdiction, but it's impacting all of us. So if we can maybe work with protective services on that or something.
If I may, I'll start with the CEOs first, and protective services. So it's a start. Director Monteith.
Through the chair, I guess just on process, I remember Director Gettins making a motion that there be a subcommittee to talk about this exact issue. Where did that go?
CEO, do you know?
I will have to look into that. Get back to you. I don't recall any committees being set up for that. We did talk at the UBCM with the minister, who gave us one contact number that we're supposed to go through. She was supposed to help us. I could start with that too.
If there's nothing else, I'll ask for a motion to move second. All in favor? Carried, and we are adjourned. Thank you. Back to you, Chair.
Okay. Thank you, Director Coyne, and thanks to the officers and everybody for showing up. It's always good to see you and get updated. Okay, we will be moving somewhat straight into the regional district regular board meeting. But before we do, I do have a little announcement here. Yesterday, March 4th, was the RDOS's 60th anniversary. March 4th marked an important milestone at the RDOS as the RDOS celebrated its 60th anniversary. The Regional District of Okanagan-Smokemean was officially established on March 4th, 1966, under the Municipal Act of British Columbia, creating a new way for communities to work together at a regional level. Over the past 6 decades, the RDOS has played a vital role in bringing communities together to address common challenges and deliver essential services. This includes supporting infrastructure and emergency preparedness to regional planning and environmental stewardship. Today offers an opportunity to acknowledge and thank the many board members, staff, and partners, past and present, whose dedication and leadership have shaped this organization. It's also a time to reaffirm the simple but powerful principle that has guided the RDOS for 60 years. Our communities are stronger when we work together. And as CAO Zafino quite often says, one region working together. So just wanted to acknowledge that as important milestone for us and past directors and staff. So looking at our agenda, we have some items on the consent agenda. This is an opportunity to remove those to the regular, or move those to the regular portion of the meeting if there's a desire to do so. Not seeing anything there. Looking for a motion to approve the agenda. Moved, seconded, thank you. All in favor? That's great. Any opposed? That motion carries. Brings us to the consent agenda, corporate issues. Looking for a motion on that one. Mover, thank you. Seconded. All in favor? Great. Any opposed? Again, that motion carries. That brings us down to development services, rural land use matters. Item B1, an ALC commission referral in area F. Over to the CAO.
Thank you, Chair. An application has been submitted to the Agricultural Land Commission under Section 20.3.5 of the Agricultural Land Commission Act and referring to the regional district in order to permit the removal of soil from lands within the agricultural land reserve. The recommended motion is and will be on the screen shortly.
Okay. I will go to, usually Director Gettens is here, but online. Are you with us? Okay, your hand is there. Go ahead, Director Gettens.
Yeah, sorry, I thought that there was a presentation.
I'm not sure if staff has one. I will just go to them and they're bringing it up. So we'll get that now.
Thank you.
There is a presentation. We're just waiting for the recommended motion to be up there after the presentation. Go ahead, please.
Through the chair, thank you. Our first item this morning, item B1, is a ALC referral for the property at 22901 Bathville Road. If we can. Oh. There we go. So yes, the property is at 22901 Bathville Road. The proposed development is concerning there we go. The removal of soil from lands located in the ALR at the property of 22901 Bathville Road.
Clicker's not cooperating.
There we go. As you'll see in the image here, the proposed location of development is located within the ALR. Okay. Sorry about that. So yes, the subject site currently has an aggregate removal operation already occurring in the northeast portion of the property that's located outside the ALR. The proposed development is now to expand that operation into a portion of the property that is located within the ALR. And as a result of this property being located in a parcel that's permitted for agricultural use under the zoning bylaw, this file has been put forward in front of the board. Next slide, please. So considerations for the proposed development, there's 3 key criteria that were outlined within the staff reports. The first being the limited agricultural capability of the site, the noted reclamation plan that would return the site to its similar agricultural potential output as what is currently understood to be present on the site. The presence of other aggregate resources on the parcel, so that's the aforementioned mine operation currently on site, and the steep slopes also noted within the OCP for that parcel. Next slide, please. So the options in front of the board today are to authorize or not authorize this referral back to the ALC. And next slide, next click. The staff recommendation is to authorize the file. Does anyone have any questions?
Director Gettens, is that a new hand?
Yeah, it is.
Go ahead.
I have a question. Yeah, thanks. If you could just go back to the slide where you're showing the parcel and the impacted area. I just have it looks like to me that yeah, just go back. Yeah, there. So where the red circle is, that looks like it's already been like the whatever it's called, the gravel removed from that. Is that correct?
Through the chair, my apologies. That red circle should be located further south within the subject parcel. So it would be in an area that hasn't been developed as to the extent of what is currently circled. My apologies.
Okay, thank you for that. That makes more sense for the request from the citizens, like this, why we're getting this. Can you just also just confirm what the communication for the neighbors was like? So I don't believe we had any feedback from the community. So I just wanted to make sure that the community knew that this was a request.
Over to staff.
Yes, through the chair. So for referrals such as ALC referrals, there typically isn't a engagement process, as would be the case with a RDOS application. And the reason being, this referral is simply analysis of the proposed development in relation to the RDOS bylaws, and in this case, as it relates to potential agricultural uses permitted or not permitted on the site. So as a result, there wouldn't be any specific public engagement apart from notice of this board meeting, which would include this file as part of the agenda.
Okay, thank you for that information. I will move the administrative recommendation, please.
Okay, moved and seconded, but I'll just check if anybody has any further questions for staff before we move on. Go ahead, Director Barkwell.
I'll just comment that a little bit familiar with the area, and it's really hard to imagine that there's agricultural potential in that property, particularly steep parts, opposed to mine.
Okay, any other questions for staff? Seeing none there, discussion on the motion itself? Not seeing any hands. Okay, we'll call the question on this. This is the corporate vote. All in favor? Thank you. Any opposed? That motion carries. And I neglected or oversaw, whatever the case is, one item in the development consent agenda for development services. So there was 2 items there. We needed a motion to approve those development services issues in the consent agenda. Moved. Thank you. Seconded. Perfect. All in favor? Great. Any opposed? That's carried. Brings us down to B2. official community plan and zoning bylaw amendment in Area H. Over to the CA.
Thank you, Chair. This application is seeking to amend the zoning of the subject property in order to facilitate the subdivision of the property into 5 lots ranging from 1.05 hectares to 5.36 hectares. There is a PowerPoint presentation, which is here to answer questions.
Okay, over to staff.
Thank you. This is a rezoning file for 3831 Princeton Summerland Road, which is at the OCP is large holdings, zoned large holdings 2, which is within a growth area and a ESDP and WDP area. I'm clicking. The proposed application is seeking for rezoning to facilitate the subdivision of the property into 5 lots, which range from 1.05 hectares to 5.36 hectares in area. Proposed amendments, amendment to the electoral area H, OCP bylaw 2497 2012 from large holdings to small holdings, and to amend the zoning bylaw of electoral area H zoning bylaw from large holdings 2 to small holdings 3. In consideration, the parcel is within a growth area which supports a higher density residential use. There is no anticipated servicing and extra community costs. Large holding designations does serve to preserve larger parcels. And if there would be further small holdings rezoning, it may reduce the availability of large undeveloped rural lands and increase in servicing environmental impacts. Recommendation that the electoral area H official community plan amendment bylaw 2497.18/2026 and the electoral area H zoning amendment bylaw number 3065.02/2026 be read at first and second time and proceed to public hearing. Thank you.
Okay, I'll go to Director Coyne on this direction.
I'd like to make the administrative recommendation and then I have a question.
Okay, so you're moving it. It's seconded. Thank you. Go ahead, Director Coyne.
I noticed in the referrals that you sent out to, I've seen the Aris Fire Department one and to the archaeological branch. Has there been any feedback from either of those?
Staff?
To the chair, there has been no feedback from them.
Okay, nothing back yet.
Thank you.
All right. Any further discussion on this? Not seeing any hands. This is a rural vote. All those in favor? Thank you. Any opposed? That motion carries. Down to B3, Area G zoning bylaw updates. CAO.
Thank you, Chair. It had been proposed to introduce a new conservation area and parks and recreation zone to the electoral area G zoning bylaw 2781.2017 and apply these zones to crown lands within the electoral area. There is a PowerPoint presentation and the recommended motion will appear once the presentation is over.
Okay, over to staff.
Thank you. So this will just be a very, very quick overview since we went through this morning. And if you could just click to the next slide. So as mentioned by the CAO, this item relates to the electoral area G zoning bylaw update. And as a reminder, this item was the subject of this morning's public hearing. But just as a quick reminder, this amendment bylaw does seek to amend zoning bylaw in order to introduce conservation area and parks recreation zones by adding new zoning regulations within the text of the bylaw and replacing zoning maps to include a conservation area and park recreation zones. And our recommendation is that the amendment bylaw be read a third time. Should the board be supportive of this, Ministry of Transportation approval will be required prior to proceeding to consideration of adoption. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I will go to Director Roberts for direction.
I'd like to move the administrative recommendation.
Okay, so you're moving it. Seconded. Thank you. Any discussion on this? Again, not seeing any hands. We'll call
There's
the
a hand.
question. Oh,
There's
oh,
a hand.
Director Coyne, sorry. You're waving now. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm just curious, how will this changing the zoning on that parcel affect existing property owners? I'm thinking like up the Ashland Road and whatnot.
Go to staff.
So this amendment bylaw does not impact any lands that are privately owned. It's just Crown and regional district owned lands.
Okay, thank you.
I can also state that this is strictly kind of like planting a flag and looking at working our way backwards on meeting the concerns of the community. So again, this is going to have next to no impact on private land, and it's actually stating things that are already put in our OCP, just putting it in as a zoning.
Okay. Any other discussion? Okay. This time I'm not seeing any hands. We'll call a question. Roll vote. All in favor? Thank you. Any opposed? That motion carries. Down to B4. Area I Official Community Plan and Zoning Amendment. CAO.
Thank you. This application is seeking to amend the zoning of the subject property in order to facilitate a 4-lot subdivision. There is a PowerPoint presentation and the recommended motion will appear once it's over.
Over to staff.
Thank you. This is RDOS file I-2025.008-zone. The subject property is 100 Turtle Lake Road. It's currently not within a growth area or agricultural land reserve, and is currently zoned as resource area and designated as resource area in the CP. So the proposal is related to facilitating a future 4-lot subdivision with lots that would range between 4 hectares and 6 hectares in size. And the proposed amendments is just to change the OCP's designation from resource area to large holdings and the zoning from resource area to large holdings with a site specific. The administrative recommendation is that the electoral area I official community plan amendment by law number 2683 or 0.0925 and Valley zoning amendment by law 2000.56 2025 be adopted.
Okay, any questions on this? Go to Director Monteith for direction.
Thanks. I'll make the administrative recommendation, please.
Moved, seconded, thank you. Any discussion? Again, no hands. Call the question. All in favor? Thank you. Any opposed? That motion carries. Brings us over to B5, short-term rental accommodation policy procedures review. CAO.
Thank you. The purpose of this report is to address a number of policy and procedural issues that have been identified through a day-to-day use of the short-term rental regulations adopted by the board in October 2025. There is a PowerPoint presentation and the recommended motion will appear once the presentation is over.
Okay, over to staff.
Okay, the purpose of this item, as stated, is to address a number of policy and procedural issues that have been identified through day-to-day use of the new short-term rental regulations that were adopted by the board back in October of last year. And so there's 2 items for this proposal. The first item is a development procedures amendment bylaw, and the content of this amendment is simply to apply a 15 working day notice period for feedback on short-term rental permit applications. This notice period is the same period that's currently applied to other delegated permits that would include development variance permits. The second component of this pertains to the vacation rental board policy. This existing board policy dates from 2014 and it reflects the previous approach to regulating short-term rentals prior to the changes in October of last year. And specifically, this deals with the previous single season policy for vacation rental temporary use permits.
This policy is no longer seen to be current due to those changes in October 2025, which repeal that prior vacation rental temporary use permit process. And so considering this proposal, this was the subject of the last Electoral Area Services Committee. The committee did resolve in favor of these two changes, recommending that they be initiated by the board. And further, the proposed changes are seen to support prior board direction from October of last year in relation to the new regulations for short-term rental accommodations. And so for this reason, the recommendation is that the Development Procedures Amendment Bylaw be read a first, second, and third time and adopted, and that the Board of Directors rescind the vacation rental temporary use permit policy. I will note for the board, the amendment bylaw number on the screen is different from how it appears in the board agenda. There is a typo in the agenda. The correct bylaw amendment number is 2500.38, not 0.38 as it appears in the agenda. So just ask that the motion that be considered is the one that appears on the screen. The alternative is that these two components not be initiated, and that would maintain the status quo.
Okay, Director Federico, you had a question?
Yes, thank you, through the chair. Given that both of these in our agenda show one is a rural vote and one is a corporate, can we tackle them separately? And we have to, perfect. So I'd like to start with the second one, which is the corporate to rescind the vacation rental permit. I'd actually like to refer that back to the EA committee because we need to look at it. In all of our OCPs, we have tourist accommodation that falls under this similar policy. So I think further discussion needs to be made whether we're just amending this policy or whether we're going to rescind it and bring in a new one. Because all of our Okanagan OCPs have tourist accommodation and they have to be addressed under a TUP policy. So whether we're amending this one or bringing in a new one, I think it needs to come back to the EA committee for further discussion on that. So I'd like to see that one referred back to EA. That's a motion.
We'll deal with that second, though. The first one is...
Okay, well, I'll move the first one. That's fine.
Okay.
I agree with those.
The first one is being moved. Is there a seconder for that?
That one's rural.
What's the rural portion of the vote? Okay, it's seconded. No problem. Any discussion, questions on that one? Making sure I'm not missing any hands online. Okay, we'll call the question on the first portion of that, which is the rural vote. All those in favor? Thank you. Any opposed? That motion carries. That brings us to the second part, which is the corporate vote. And Director Federico wanted to refer it back to the EA committee. And I'm just going to ask staff, do you see that as necessary as well? Or is that... Does it relate to the tourist accommodation? If a different view of it, then maybe it's worth a discussion at the committee.
Through the chair, that existing board policy only contemplates dealing with vacation rental uses. And as the board is aware, that vacation rental use was removed from the Okanagan electoral area zoning OCP bylaws back in the fall. So that's the reason for that change. That current policy doesn't apply currently to tourist accommodation uses. From a staff perspective, would be a new policy to deal with the new subject matter.
Okay. Director Federico?
Thank you, through the chair. I would like to disagree on that because the way that it's read in
Let's
the
not
OCP,
debate it. If you're going to make the motion, then
I will make a motion to refer to the EA
committee
because we need to talk about this.
Okay. We can debate it in the committee meeting if it's going to go there. So it's moved and seconded. Any discussion on a deferral? Not usually. We'll call the question. This would be a corporate vote still. I'll just check with the CO. Yes. Okay. All those in favor of deferral? All right. Any opposed? The motion carries. Was Director Gilbert, were you opposed? Just so we record that correctly? Okay. Director Gilbert was opposed. Down to Public Works. Item C1, a letter of support, CAO.
Thank you. So this report's asking for a letter of support for Vessel Creek Sustainability Agricultural Groundwater Plan. There is no PowerPoint presentation, but staff is here to answer any questions or concerns you may have.
Okay, direction from the board on this one? Someone prepared to move it? Quiet bunch today. Am I missing something? Online? Okay, there's a mover. Seconded. Discussion on it? Seeing none, call the question. All in favor? Thank you. Any opposed? Motion carries. Down to C2, Solid Waste Curbside Collection Program, CAO.
Thank you. This is required to receive adoption of the new solid waste curbside collection service regulatory bylaw for the automatic curb program with new definitions, service provisions, collection procedures, and enforcement. No PowerPoint presentation, but again, staff's here to answer questions.
Okay. Direction or questions on this, Director Taylor?
Just time frame on getting fines established under wildlife attractions.
Over to staff.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, we're currently working on that right now. So we anticipate maybe in the next month or so, couple months.
Go ahead.
It'd be great to have it in place for the fall.
All right. Director Monteith.
Thank you, through the chair. A resident brought to my attention that, as an example, electoral area I, Colleen, specifically, we've opted into the yard waste collection, and it's not defined in here what type of containers could be used. Is that important? Is that going to be an issue? Because I guess right now the community can use any Tupperware, like tote or whatever, or old garbage cans. Does that need to be defined in here, or is it just considered standard practice? I guess there was clarity.
Staff?
I think it's just whatever people have that they can use. I don't think it needs to be specifically listed in the bylaw. There isn't anything that they can't use.
Okay. Any other questions on this? Director Roberts.
Yeah, thank you. Just again, it's my concern around the fact that we have a fee for the larger container, and the reason under definitions here we've got like a garbage bag. We used to have 2 garbage bags, and now at 95 liters each. Now we have a 120 liter. So again, I'm just constantly voicing my concern that when we increase to the larger size, there shouldn't be a monthly fee, should be just a changeover fee. Because again, we've increased by 100% in cost, but service is down. For instance, just right there in regards to liters is down 60 liters for the service. So anyways, just voicing my concern. Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions? I do have one in regards to, I think it was on the change out of the recycle bins. I notice it only says we can upsize those. I had requests in my area for downsizing those. Is that still a possibility? It's not written in the bylaw per se. I know we were dealing with it in the past and it was brought up in discussions at the committee meeting.
Yes, we actually have it in the fees and charges bylaw.
Okay, so it's listed there versus here? Okay. Any other questions? Direction on this from the board? Someone prepared to move it? Moved, thank you. A seconder, it's on the floor. Any further discussion? Not seeing any hands. We'll call the question. This one is a unweighted participants vote, just so everybody's aware. All those in favor? Thank you. Any opposed? That motion carries. Thank you for that. Over to community services. D1, authorization to apply for a community war memorial funding. CAO.
So I'll read the purpose of this, but I want to do a preamble after. The purpose of this report is to seek regional board approval for the regional district of Okanagan-Snoqualmie to apply for grant funding for the Government of Canada's Community War Memorial Funding Program to support the Naramata Centictaff relocation project. What I want to just add on to this, first of all, there is no PowerPoint presentation, but regional districts have a little bit of an issue when we go for grants. Municipalities have to compete against other municipalities. So in this case, the Penticton, Summerlands of the world, Oliver Suis, etc., you're competing against the same grant. Here, the regional district electoral areas are competing against the same grant. Yes, we are one region working together. So one of the things that you're going to see in the future is anytime any grant comes open, all electoral areas need to know that it's available. It doesn't mean that you have to go for it, because there is always mostly a component that the electoral area has to direct. So in this case, if it's very rare that it's 100% funded, but going forward, it's not just for one specific division or department. All divisions of department will be submitting an email saying these grants are available. Are you interested? Because it also means adding work to the strategic priorities and finding funding to pay for that project. So with that, there is no PowerPoint presentation. Staff's here to answer any questions or concerns you have.
Okay, I'll go to Director Federico. I'm sure she wants to move this.
I will move this, please.
Moved, seconded, thank you. Any discussion? Go ahead, Director Coyne.
This has been on the books for a while, so is there money set aside already? Like, I thought it was supposed to be done, I think, this year, but now it's deferred. So.
Okay, over to staff.
Through the chair, yes, this project was on the 2025 budget and was deferred just due to timing. We had a deadline for getting ready for Remembrance Day last year. We weren't able to meet that, so it's been deferred to 2026.
Okay. Any further discussion? Seeing none. All those in favor? Thank you. Any opposed? That motion carries. Protective Services, E1, a letter of support, the Justice Institute of BC. Over to the CAO.
Thank you. Protective Service Department is requesting the board approval for their writing of a letter to support the JIBC grant application and their participation in the research project, which the grant application, should the grant application be successful, no PowerPoint presentation, but staff's here to answer questions.
Okay. Someone prepared to move this or have any questions on it? Moved. Thank you. Seconded. Any discussion? Making sure I'm not missing anybody online. Oh, Director Taylor, go ahead.
I believe this relates primarily to staff, this grant, and I'm just reiterating, I'd like to see some training for the board on this kind of stuff. I think not emergency management, but reconciliation, diversity, inclusion, all that kind of stuff.
I think that's in the future for sure.
Becoming quite knowledgeable, and I think the board needs to keep pace with that.
CAO?
Do you have anything? First of all, our communication department is on this, and the board will be asked to see if they want to participate in something like this. So that is in the works.
Okay. Any further discussion? Call the question on this one. All those in favor? Thank you. Any opposed? That motion carries. That brings us down to finance, the budget. Over to CAO. No, we're not quite there yet.
Okay. Thank you. So earlier I talked about municipalities different than regional districts. This is one of the major components where we are different. Municipalities have one tax increase. We have 15 tax increases. If you take them all and combine them, and we have, just to elaborate, we have the 15 one because your tax increases are based on your assessments. But if you combine them and have and we were as if we were one municipality, the tax increase for 2026 is 4.88%. If you take into account the new transit service, it's 4.7%, which is reasonable, but in some of the cases for municipalities, it could range a lot higher than that, just because your assessment and you're absorbing some of that increase, while others are taking advantage of having a lower assessment and in some cases it's a negative. So with that, I'm pleased to state that this bylaw is to adjust the RDOS 2026-2030 5-year financial plan, reflecting the adjustment identified by the management and directors as of Appendix A. And yes, you've seen a lot of PowerPoint presentations with this. I believe there's one more, and I'll pass this over to staff.
Okay, over to Wayne then.
So through the chair, this PowerPoint does go through all of Appendix A, but upon board direction, we can make it shorter and not go through Appendix A. It depends on what the board would like to see. So we'll just start with the first page. Nope. There you go. So this is the impact to all the areas. As Mr. Zipino said, at the bottom, you've got the 4.88% increase. This went down from second reading. There was only 2 changes on Appendix A, which affected taxation, and that was the SIR parcel tax. We got the final numbers between second and third readings. That was applied. And Area H had a contract with Princeton for recreation, and that was what changed Area H's tax requisition. So that's shown here in Appendix A. The board wants to go through the rest of them or not. The rest of them do not affect taxation. They were just mostly for appearance on the budget.
Well, I think probably just the ones that are affecting taxation is what I would suggest, which is this one specifically.
This is it, yeah.
Okay, go ahead, Director Johansson.
I'll move the staff recommendation that the bylaw 3134/2026 be adopted.
Okay, moved and seconded. Any discussion on it? Not seeing any hands. All right, we'll call the question. All those in favor? Great. Any opposed? That motion carries. Thank you, Wayne and Noel, all your work on this. Down to legislative services, fees and charges bylaw, CAO.
This is, as you stated, this is the fees and charges bylaw amendment for 2026. The staff is here to answer any questions that you may have, and there is no PowerPoint presentation.
Any questions on this or discussion? Go ahead, Director Bush. Go ahead.
Really expensive to get rid of and quite dangerous, but now it seems like.
Sorry, can you use your mic, please?
Oh.
So excited to talk about this. So are the agricultural plastics getting put in the same class as asbestos?
Go to staff.
Thank you, Chair. No, they are different than asbestos. It's just if they're not suitably prepared and they're loose, that's when we have a bigger problem. And that's when, if they're not suitably prepared, then we will charge more. But it doesn't mean that the class is changing to asbestos. They're still different. They're still very different agriculture plastics. This is just an encouragement to make sure that they're done properly.
And so, I mean, if you bring a truckload of greenhouse plastic or whatever, how is it supposed to be contained?
In bags.
Like big fertilizer bag?
Correct. Just not loose because it wraps around the wheels of the compactors.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions or discussion on this? Director Monteith.
Thank you. I'd asked for the drop-in rates to be increase. I don't see it in the red line document. So I'm just trying to check to see if that's been done.
You want to just make sure? I'll go to Lisa
Mark.
or whomever might need to answer this one. Do you want to re-ask your question just so Mark knows which one he's answering?
I'm just trying to check that the drop-in rates for the clean recreation were increased.
Go ahead, staff.
Thank you, Chair. In terms of the last round of the fees and charges bylaw, I don't know offhand. I will definitely look into that and get back to the director of the board. Thank you.
Follow up?
Well, I just don't want to adopt it if it hasn't been.
It's something that we regularly are amending the fees and charges, but CAO?
You said exact words I was going to say, because that could be amended at any time.
Yeah. I think there's other amendments coming in the near future. If it's not in there, we'll ensure that it gets caught the next round. Director Taylor.
Yeah, last month or last time we discussed this, I'd asked that we look at the additional unit charges on motels, hotels. And so I've had some conversation with staff and I'm just hoping that we can see that brought back in a timely manner so that we can look at it. Because right now, yeah, it's pretty healthy, Jack, if you're going to run a hotel in Okanagan Falls and there really isn't any business the rest of being charged of charges 12 months.
Okay. Staff have a comment on that, or is it just in the works? Okay. CAO?
It is in the works. We talked about it, and like, as I stated earlier, the rates could be changed anytime, and we will be reviewing it and coming back to the board with a recommendation.
Okay. Director Monteith.
Thank you. I did find it in here that it has been changed, but just not redlined in the document. So.
Okay. Go ahead, Ms. Batt.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just for the director's information, the reason it wasn't redlined is because it was included in first reading. I don't recall that. Yeah.
This was the clean one that's put in this time around. Go ahead, Director Bush.
So I just had another thought. Is there a way we can educate farmers about containing plastics?
Back to Lisa.
Because I mean, most of them will never hear about this until they go to the
landfill. Yeah. Go ahead, Lisa.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. A lot of them do actually bring it in contained, so which is good, but absolutely, we can definitely do some educational.
Thank you.
Okay. Director Chahal.
Yeah, currently, I thought there's no charge for agricultural plastic. They don't get charged to bring it to the dump. So if they do bring it loose, are we gonna, like, is it gonna be a fine? Is it a set fine? Is it gonna be based on weight or?
We'll let Lisa answer that here if she can.
That's a good question. I don't think we'd actually thought that one. Likely it'll be charged at garbage rates. I'll get back to you though. I'll determine exactly what it would be.
Okay. Follow up on that. Go ahead.
Definitely. Then, as Director Bush suggested, talk to farmers and let them know, because that'd be a massive charge because plastic's very heavy. And Director Bush, how people are doing in our areas, they take 96-inch plastic shrouds and they're putting the plastic in there and they tie them up and then.
Okay. Sounds like an education program or would be handy. Anything further on this? Someone, go ahead, Lisa.
Thank you, Chair. Just followed up. I'll just take a look in the fees and charges. Actually, section the comment 2.12. It will be charged as refuse with a $10 minimum charge, which would be the $125 a ton. So we did we did add.
That's if it's not bundled correctly. Okay. All right, someone prepared to move this, or did we do that already? I don't think so. Someone prepared to move it? Reluctantly, there's a mover, a seconder. Thank you. Any further discussion? Seeing no hands, we'll call the question on this one. All those in favor? Thank you. Any opposed? That motion carries. Down to Skaha Estates Irrigation District Conversion Grant, CAO.
Thank you. Just to quickly change it from irrigation district to improvement district. So the purpose of this report is to receive the board authorization to apply for the provincial conservation grant for the Skaha Improvement District. Staff's here to answer questions, no PowerPoint.
Okay, so noting that's improvement district. Direction on this? Moving it? Thank you. Is there a seconder? It's on the floor. Any discussion? Go ahead, Director Taylor.
I think grants available only to improvement district, or are they available on other systems that come across it?
CAO?
They're not always available, but they are in some cases. In this case, it's because we're taking it over, not because it's just we couldn't apply for any existing systems. It's the conversion. In the previous government, we would apply for it, and in most cases we would get it, but not in all cases.
So it's really hit and miss.
Just like any grant.
Okay. Any further discussion? Call the question. All in favor? Thank you. Any opposed? Again, that motion carries. Down to I8, CAO reports. Over to the CAO.
Just want to start off with the strategic action plan amendments. I've got Matt here to talk to you as board to look at any changes that are adding and subtracting. As you know, in strategic priorities, only the board can add and only the board can subtract. And one of the things, so you all received an email from me about the LGMA magazine actually featuring us. This is one of the where we were featured on, along with the 4-day work week. So I'll just pass this on to staff.
Okay, Matt, go ahead.
Good morning, thank you. I'm going to review adjustments that were suggested over a few week period. We were here a month ago, the 5th of February, to present the work plan. Since then, we've collected 13 recommended changes, resulting in 3 projects on this list that staff are recommending to the work plan. All the correspondence that was collected from the directors shared back to them. And again, there can be changes throughout the year to projects that are still in holding. So we'll just go through very quickly those projects. There are 2 changes from the board report to what's in this presentation this morning. Those 2 changes affect the first request and the second request, mainly just estimated hours for the teams. So I just want to highlight, this isn't in the report, but it's a visual here. Just the change we are tracking, you know, the difference when we're adding projects and moving them, the impact of that to the teams. They're aware of the changes and suggest these going forward. So there are increases to 5 different individuals and teams. The capital projects team, this is where one of the changes are. Their first couple projects, there's only going to be an increase of 160 hours, down from it was 616, I believe, before. So I can detail that. And then legislative services is decreasing hours, one project being recommended to be coming off the list. So did I miss? No, okay. So I'll just go through them very quickly. They are in your in the report. Change number 1 here, this is regards to project for Area D. the change that I just want to highlight here is that the decrease in hours for the capital projects was 376 hours estimated before. The new figure that I was provided was 40 hours. So there's just a change in those hours. I don't have the background on it, but I can find more details if that. Is there a question?
Go ahead, Director Taylor.
So you're budgeting fewer hours than before.
I would have to, sorry, I'd have to find out the details. This came very last minute. I don't believe the scope of the project is changing. The information that was provided here is that the this is in fact a project that should be on the work plan. It's just that when it was organized a month ago, it was placed on holding. So we just the team would list. We don't want to list.
Anything further on that?
Okay. No changes. So just a decrease in hours that were estimated.
Okay. Continue on.
Thank you. The change 2, this affects the capital projects team with their estimates as well. They've halved the hours from 120 hours. There are other teams affected there. Again, this is an Area D project regarding design for the cemetery. So those are the 2 projects that are different than the report. So we'd like to move that project to the work plan. Request to remove from holding. So this is for electoral area A. We'll remove this project from the holding list as well. I believe the work that was posed initially for this project in 2025 is also part of a different plannings project. So we're just sort of combining them together to move forward. So this project is sort of going to take off. Again, no impact to the work plan. Number 4, no impact to the work plan. Area I, the old Clayton Road walking path. This has been recommended to change number 5. Again, removing a project, Pioneer Park North Beach retaining wall. This is not supported by the Parks and Rec and I believe the director. So again, we're just taking it off the holding list, not the work plan. Number 6, we're moving another project off the holding list, in soil disposition bylaws. There's a duplicate with this, so we are removing the duplicate off the holding list. There were 2 different numbers from 2 different years. We're taking one of them off. This is a removal from the work plan, so this is one that would change the work plan, removing the electoral area I local community work plan. This is a decrease for legislative services led project of 300 hours that were estimated. So this is the 3rd change to the work plan here. Number 8, removing a project from holding the Apex Community Part. Again, it's a duplicate. It was submitted in 25. It was submitted in 26, and it's just a housekeeping to remove the duplicate. Number 9, so no change in this project. There was a request to advocate in the St. Andrews area for a school district boundary review. The CS team was not aware of the project, so we sort of had some discussions. So the recommendation from staff is that there's a director motion that's brought forward. So again, no impact to the work plan. Change number 10, so no change on this. Local area plan for Apex. This is part planning states it's not an active plan, so it is going to stay on the holding list. They don't have capacity to add another project to the list of, or to the. Change 11, so this is a add to the work plan. This project here is regarding Farley Lake water service. This project has not been scoped. Estimated hours have not been allocated. The work, I believe, is just beginning. So we'd like to add this to the work plan with an understanding that work and estimates need to be put in place. So we're looking at options for that.
Director Monteith.
Thank you, through the chair. So I guess I don't understand how it can't be scoped without an estimated hours when it was budgeted through rural projects about 4 years ago. So budgeted, paid for, like it's already funded. So I guess I'm confused, right? Like, so how does that work?
CEO.
So 4 years ago, what was budgeted and what was available capacity wasn't considered. We're now looking at the consideration of what we can and we can't do. And that's why we're looking at taking the number, establishing a number of hours for this project. And we like to establish them as close as possible. It's still an estimate, but if we come to you and say we're going to do it, we're going to do it. We're not going to just put it in the budget and keep carrying it over. And as I stated 4 years ago, it was in the budget, but we didn't promise to you that it can happen because just that the dollars were set aside. And for the last 2 years, we have been 91% successful. And to me, 100% would be perfect world. But I would accept 91%. So I'm not saying it was wrong 4 years ago. It's just it's better now.
Follow up to that, Director Monteith?
Thank you. Yes. So as a director, when something is a priority, and we've been bringing it forward for multiple years, it's been funded. We've done everything that we can do at our level, but it's a priority now. Like it's now 4 years ago, it was an ask. Now it's a priority. So how do I get things from holding to actually like needing to be actively?
So what you're being told here is it's on. We're saying we're going to do it. What we're also saying is we don't have the exact hours yet. And when we do, we will come back and say, okay, we now have the hours. Yes, it's within our capacity, or no, it's not. And if it's not, we keep the project on there, but we come back to you and say, we'd like to take something else off. That's how the new system works. I won't call it new. This is in its 3rd year, but it is working. But the project will get done.
Okay. Continue on then, Matt.
Thank you. So in order for this project to have work begun, we want to add it to the work plan. Otherwise, it sits in holding later. So it is a priority. Staff have identified that the work will begin. It's just that the direction of the project needs to be like confirmed a little bit more in that team. But we would like to move it to the work plan to begin the work. Number 12, White Lake Road access through a blocked route. So there's a similar project in the Twin Lakes area that involves fire smarting. Protective Services and the CES team are aware of that project there. So staff recommendation is to keep this on the holding. This is the 13th last change. So this is a project in Area D. With a request to have formal plans and costing for the design of a town hall for Okanagan Fall. So the CES team, capital projects team, has reviewed the request. They're looking into it. They have drawings and such. Further details need to be scoped as well, but currently we'd like to keep it on the holding list. It is underway, so it's kind of one of those under review projects. Just a lot has changed since ago.
Director Taylor?
Yep, I appreciate stuff looking at this, really do. And having knocked a few hours off earlier in the list, it'd be great if we could. I just want to point out that we should be able to bill this back to the province, and if staff hours is it possible to achieve the same end with contracting? I don't know anyway.
Go to the CAO.
Just to clarify, there are 2 types of recoverables with the St. Croix Falls municipality. One is a conversion of governance, and that's through the grant that we received from the province, and one that is a direct benefit to the new municipality. I see this as a direct benefit to the municipality, not the province. Province will not pay for something like this. And we do have a system in place to charge either the grant or directly to the municipality. This would be the first one. If we do that, you're making a commitment, which is perfectly all right. We've already purchased 3 computers for the new municipality. We've split the server or the computer, so the new municipality will have their own separate server through us until they're able to go up and have their own. And those would be recoverable to the new municipality.
Okay. Continue on.
That's also our recommendation is that the board adopt this 2026 strategic action work plan as amended by these 13 items in Schedule 1.
Okay, someone prepared to move this? Moved, thank you. Is there a seconder? It's on the floor. Any further or any discussion on it? Don't think I'm seeing any hands. Oh, Director Gettens? Is
Yeah,
that a new?
thanks. Yeah, thanks,
Go
Chair.
ahead.
I just wanted to say that I think this takes a lot of time and work from staff, and I appreciate it. And I think it's hard when we get too granular. Like, we do need a little bit of flexibility once in a while. And I'm wondering if this is something that we can also discuss further at the EA committee as well. Just because things do change and we do need to be able to move things around a bit, and priorities will shift and opportunities will arise. And I just don't want to see staff get so scheduled to the hour that we're spending so much time making sure those hours are correct and that we don't have time free to, leverage opportunities and address concerns.
CAO.
So the system takes that into account. If there's opportunities coming into through the year where we get a grant or whatever, we will come to the board and say, here's an opportunity, and we will recommend what needs to be taken off so that we can meet our commitments to you. So that could be discussed at the A committee, but however, I recommend it stays either at the committee of the whole, the board, because no matter what, the strategic priorities encompasses, it's directly tied to the budget. And if it affects something, the EA committee, it could affect one of the projects, but ultimately it'll affect overall the one region working together concept.
Okay, follow up to that, Director Gettens.
Thank you. And well, I completely hear what you're saying, CEO, and I accept that. I think sometimes with the EA directors, there's opportunities maybe that we could work together or piggyback on each other a little bit to help with some of the shared priorities that may not necessarily impact the municipalities. So maybe less discussion really about the budget impact and just how to work together on opportunities is sort of where I was leaning. But I understand your point completely, CEO. Thanks.
Okay, thanks for that. Any further discussion? Director Barkwell.
Yeah, I'd say thanks to the CEO for bringing this program in. People find it onerous keeping track and kind of figure that takes away from the actual getting things done. But I think it's going to help with the issues such as Director Monteith brought up, where, if there's something that's budgeted for, along with dollars, there's hours. And the only way that you're going to get these things done, you expect them done if you know the hours involved and have the capacity to do it. The system will better be able to do that.
Yeah. Good point. Anything further on this? Not seeing any hands. We'll call the question. All in favor? Thank you. Any opposed? That motion carries. Anything further, CAO, on this? Or
not on this,
your
but
reports? Go ahead then.
If you look on the board, you'll see something fairly new where it's you've got the recommended motion and now you have the alternative motion. This is something that I've asked staff to continue doing. You'll also see it on the reports where it's going to be right in the front, so you'll see both. Looking at the past, a lot of times the board, and rightfully so, you've got the right to look at the alternate motion. So if we can have that front and center, that's something new that will start at the next meeting. Yeah. The last thing I have is I do want to speak to the notice of motions, but I can wait until the board brings that up.
Okay, I've got Director Gilbert has a question. Go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Just a comment. I really do appreciate that now the PowerPoint presentation have the recommendation and the alternate recommendation. It'd be nice too if they could add whether it's a rural or corporate vote as well. I think that'd just be good to add it to that slide too.
It's on, if it is one or the other, it will be on. Yes, it's just this one wasn't either one or the other.
Okay, that's good suggestions. Anything further, CAO?
Nothing further.
Okay. Where are we for time? Oh, we've still got a fair bit of time. Moving down, chair's reports. Not a whole lot to report there, other than, again, we did meet with the province yesterday on the incorporation. And I think the board is aware, as the public website is now available on the provincial governments. I don't know what you call it, wherever they host those websites for comment. It's probably something that, if you're interested, you might want to take a look on or at. And specifically for the public, there's an opportunity to comment on them as well. So that's worth noting. I think that's it for me at the moment. So we'll go to director's motions. We had a couple, I believe, for Director Federico last time. So they were notices of motion. So we'll go to the first one, Director Federico.
So and I move that a new section be added to all planning, infrastructure, and community service staff board reports pertaining to electoral area or areas that clearly indicates whether the EA directors were advised or consulted on the item prior to the report being brought forward to the board.
Okay. You're moving it. I'm going to just check if there's a seconder on it first. Seconded. Go ahead, CAO. You wanted to comment to it?
Yes.
Think you said that in your
Before you vote on it,
yes.
I have some comments. So one of the things that it automatically, if this does happen, it actually undermines the board's collective decision-making, because the decision could be made when the discussion is made or the update is made to the director. It also exposes staff to a political pressure. I would hope not, because ultimately I am your only employee. And if reports start to go from the person that's writing the report directly to the director, that circumvents the one employee concept. One of the other things, did a little research on any precedents for legal consequences. And if the board decides to do this, you're creating a policy and procedure. And if at one time it doesn't happen, where you don't receive the report, it could be challenged that we didn't follow your own policies and procedures. What I would propose is going back to the no surprise rule, where if there's something that during the time when I'm reviewing board reports, just as you read all the reports, I do too. So I can see if there's something that could be controversial. I make the call. I contact you. I've actually started doing that with this report. Some of you directors received a heads up of what I perceived might be an issue. And in one case it wasn't. It doesn't matter. I'd rather be safe than sorry. So I would request, if you're gonna make a change, that could be something that I've already started. That's it, my spiel.
Okay, I had a hand from Director Coyne.
Just before I start, I was surprised to hear that we don't follow the no surprise report. So I think that's where this is coming from, is that we've seen a number of times Director Federico is very upset about it, and I've heard other directors over the past that have been blindsided by motions that were coming to the table that weren't given any heads up. And that's the problem here, is that when directors show up at the table or get the agenda and they didn't know that there were things happening that they had no time to even look into, find out about, is the problem. And the chair and the vice chair get to see it. They know before the board does. I see where you're coming from, Jim, but I think there is a problem, and it's a breakdown in the communication, whether it's between staff or however, but it needs to be dealt with. And it's not the first time this has happened, and I hope it is the last time.
CAO?
So that's a fine line we're talking about. And I go back to what I originally said, is undermines the board's collective decision making. There is the majority of the reports you saw, and usually it's common, is planning. And a lot of them are zoning. And with the zoning part of it, there's a process, there's a public, people from the public have to make comments, etc. There's notifications out there. To what point do you need to see the report before it gets done? You may not know this, but the next meeting's deadline for the reports is Monday. And if we start adding in another layer of authorizations, you're not going to get the reports on a timely basis. As it is, all the reports that you get, you have an opportunity to take a week or so to read it. Between Ms. Batten and I, we have 1 day. Most cases, because we have to wait maybe Monday, but it has to go through a number of staff requests and reviews before we get it. So that's another area is it delays the report. However, what I'm stating is I don't like if you get surprises. And if you get surprises, then there's something wrong in our system. So if I see something that I'm worried about that it would be a surprise, I will let you know. But one of the things that, again, we haven't been very good at, and we're going to change, is if you as a director ask for a question, I think that you all should get the answer, not just one of you, so that there's no surprises. Working for previous councils, that was a policy. You may not care, and you would be CC'd. The director that asked the question would get the email, and the rest of you would be CC'd. So again, that's no surprise again. So I'm throwing that out at you to discuss.
All right, I do have a couple of hands here. I'll start with Director Bush and then Coyne and Monteith. And Bloomfield, go ahead.
Yeah, I don't see the need for this. I agree with the CAO. I mean, we all have a week to look at these motions. And the other thing is, if we don't have time to prepare or whatever, we can always defer motions. But I don't see the need for change.
Okay, Director Coyne and then Monteith and Bloomfield.
I understand the reluctance on this, but I also have been in the room when directors have gotten phone calls from staff to say, heads up, this is coming up to the board before it ever shows up on the public agenda. So maybe it was just the way things were done in the past, but I've been in the room with those when that's happened, and it gives the director the ability to not be surprised. And I just want to make sure that the CAO understands that there are directors that are surprised, which is not a good look for the organization when that's.
Okay, CAO.
I can't disagree. But what I'm saying is it starts at my end where I'm the last one down the line to see all the reports. I'm the last one that signs off on it. And once I sign off on it, that means you automatically get it. And at that point, I don't see a problem in saying, okay, this is something that I consider you may be surprised. And you may not. Like I said, I did send out 2 this time around, and one of them was a non-issue, which is fine. But to send out essentially a list of all the reports that we do, and you don't see them all. In some cases, we pull them between myself and Ms. Batten. We pull them because we're not happy with whatever, might make changes. And it doesn't mean that you'll never see them, but you may see them the next meeting. So what I'm agreeing with the director Coyne in that if there's something that could be a surprise, yes, you need to know. But if it's a straight forward zoning, something like it's a grant application, things like that, I think we should just continue doing slightly change with the new amendment that I'm recommending.
Okay, Director Monteith.
Thank you through the chair. So I have been on the surprise side of things. And for me, I'm seeing it when it's a policy change. And it may not be a conversation we've had at a board, but it's an idea coming up from a staff level. So maybe that's the question that needs to be asked. Is the board interested in having a policy change in this? Right? So we have a flavor of the board before staff invests their time. Or like, I think that's the challenge, right? It's the policy, not necessarily every planning application. I have no interest in seeing the granular of that, but it's the policy change, the change in direction when it's not a conversation as a board that we've identified on strategic planning or the work plan, and all of a sudden we're revisiting something. So for me, that's the concern, and that's where I get surprised.
Okay, Director Bloomfield.
Yeah, some of my questions have already been answered on previous questions, but I think what we're dealing with here is, of course, is advice and how it could turn into consent.
and that's the issue. And so advice, consultation, consent, and at what level does an individual area director get involved in the preparation presentation to the board? Because the board, the board makes the decision. The board has to have the same, all the board members have to have the same information in order to make the decision. And I can understand the need for advising the electoral director about issues that are coming up. But how does you got to be careful that it doesn't turn into consult or consent, because it is a board decision. It's not an individual decision. Okay, good point, our CAO, and then I've got several hands again. So
just to be clear, if I continue with this with the board's approval, I'm not asking for approval. I'm just advising. Here's the recommendation. Here's the purpose, and that's it. And that way they're aware that it's coming. And if they want to defer it, you can defer it. But it has to be at my level. It can't be at a level lower than myself. And again, there's no debate. At that point that I'm sending it, I'm also authorizing the report to go through the system.
Okay, Director Bartwell.
Thank you, Chair. One of the points that the CAO brought up earlier, which isn't being repeated, is the possibility if process didn't happen, people look for any little thing to challenge something that they don't like. So there is that legal risk that we spoke of, and I think it's a real risk. I look at it as a municipal. We're not, sort of all the zoning changes and policy changes aren't necessarily bounced off of us before they come to the council. And Director Bloomfield is absolutely right. It's a principle that in law that we all have the same information. So there's a risk there. I think that the CAO is the way to go. It may not be perfect in all situations, but it's better than the alternative.
Okay, I've got Director Taylor, Coyne, and Holmes.
Yeah, I'm leaning towards the CAO recommendation on this side, but I'm wondering, does the director, and I also agree though, the issue to me seems more on when policy change gets brought to us. And my experience has been the policy change brought forward by staff is on the same topic that I would see a policy change, but it's not the policy change that I would have seen. So then I have to try to wedge mine into that same discussion. So I guess I'm wondering would it make any difference to the director if that were being brought forward not to the board but to the EA committee? Because your comment is about being brought forward to the board.
Okay, Director Coyne, and then Holmes.
So I think Director Monteith is on point with this. So I was trying not to attach the issue that brought this forward because that was one issue. But in this case, it was a contentious issue that was then decided upon, and then staff made a policy proposal change that went out to the public, that ended up in the newspaper without any prior discussion that, hey, director, or hey, Jim, can you talk to the director about maybe we need a policy? So the newspaper in question came out with a headline that caused a bunch of problems that blindsided the director. And I think that's where Director Monteith is bang on. Like when the board makes a decision on a policy and then staff decide, no, we need to revisit that policy, and it specifically is for an electoral area that is being singled out in part of that policy, that might be a discussion between the CAO and maybe Ms. Batten and the planning department or whoever is making up the policy with the director to say, is this a direction you wanted to go, even though the board has already approved? And maybe that's, I didn't want to single out on this one situation, but I think that is the problem, is when policies are being brought back by staff without any discussion with the people that are being impacted by it and the communities that are being impacted by it. So I mean, whatever you guys want to do on this is it's up to you. But I think really it's when that happens, there's a big surprise moment and it's almost feels like a gotcha. And I think that's the problem.
Okay, Director Holmes.
Yeah, so the way the motion is written is, you know, theoretically, so you could have in the report, the staff report saying, no, the director wasn't advised, consulted, and there could be legitimate reasons why that is the case. But then, you know, we're going to get into debates about why wasn't the director advised or consulted, and then we're going to get in debates on what does being advised or consulted mean. What does it look like? We're going to have to spell that out and define what and I just think, you know, we don't need to formalize everything. I think it's more of a management approach, and you know, there's nothing wrong with keeping it informal. I think every organization has these informal processes where you're on a case by case basis. You know, you might test the water with director, another director on various issues of concern to them, and I think that's what works better. Once you start formalizing everything like this, then you create more problems. And be aware of the unintended consequences. I say, I don't think this is necessary. It's more of just the awareness of to approach a director and whatnot.
Okay, and then Director Federico, I'd seen a hand from you.
Yes, thank you, the chair. Thank you, everyone. I do greatly appreciate the conversation and feedback and different perspectives. You know, this does come out of being kind of blindsided by some things, and it's not to go in and staff have a conversation with you and try and sway where they're going. Nothing like that. Simple, just the heads up, and if there's concern, you go to Jim. That's the process. That's where we go. We don't give direction to staff. I get emails about zoning. I get emails about short-term rental permits that are coming up. I get those heads up. I know they're coming. I ask the questions, and if I need to come in and chat with staff about it, then I do. I know when those are potentially coming to the board because they put a date in there. So there are certain things that do come to us already that we get a heads up. So all this is that it's, and again, to Director Monteith's point, it's some of those bigger surprises that just pop up. And I appreciate to the point where it's like, you know, it just shows up and there's not a lot of time. If staff have their reports that are due on Monday, they know today what those reports are. They have to have them done. Unless you are a last minute person who writes them at 3 o'clock on Friday, like I typically would have been, then those reports are in. Those staff know what they are going to bring forward. They've been working on it for a week. So it's not really a surprise for them to know what's coming forward. In Jim's timeline, then he'll know what's in on Monday, and then that will be put into the agenda on Thursday. And then we see it, or 2 weeks actually, right? Because we don't have a meeting next week. So there's 3 weeks plus almost in there that it is known, at least by staff, and then a couple weeks for Jim, when it is coming to the board. We get it on Friday when it is released to the public. Okay, we don't get to see it before the public gets to see it. And then we are surprised with certain things that are put in there that have the potential to be seen and blown up. And I get it. That's the nature of our role and our job and what we're doing. Okay, then we have the weekend to read it. And then half the staff don't work on Monday. So you have Tuesday, Wednesday to ask any kind of questions to find out what you need to formulate, you know, where you want to go with. So our timeline realistically isn't very long, especially if you're dropped with an OCP or an RGS or another document that's over 100 pages that you need to digest. It takes a lot of time. So it's simply, and this is not a discussion, it's not anything with staff, it's maybe just a similar email that we already get from land use that says, hey, this is coming to the board on this date. And if it needs to go to Jim first and Jim filters it to us in the chain of command, I respect that. But I just need, like, I think with respect to all of us, a heads up before the Friday, before on an issue that will end up in the paper, will be super contentious, and it's going to blow up, is just a little common courtesy to us to not be completely blindsided by something that is huge and contentious.
CAO?
So the chair and vice chair know the timelines. It's just I want to go through them, and then I'm agreeing that there has to be some change. It's just that what the change is. So the reports are due Monday. The agenda and agenda review is Thursday. That's the timeline. And by Thursday, that everything has to get done to a certain level. Doesn't mean that I've seen them even. The chair made a comment one time when computers were down. All it says is draft, because it only stays as draft until I finalize them. Any disruption in the time flow is going to delay that reports. It's going to delay. It's not 3 weeks. It's next week, next Thursday. And as far as I'm agreeing that if there's a policy change, you'll get it from me, but there shouldn't be a debate. You get the purpose of what the report is, what the recommendation, what the ultimate recommendation is, and the date that of the board meeting. And that actually will solve the legal issue. It doesn't undermine the board's collective decision making, and it won't slow down the process.
Okay, hands are still popping up here. I'm going to go to Director Taylor first.
Yeah, appreciate nobody likes getting caught in that position. From my perspective, there's been a really healthy discussion, and I think aired on both sides. From my perspective, your message has been delivered. I think the managing directors and Jim are more aware of the importance of this, and yeah, I'm ready to move on.
Director Coyne?
So I'll just make one slight suggestion, and that's, so with my municipality, we get our agendas are due on, I think it's Wednesday. We get a couple days prior as the draft, prior to, for council to read it, prior to it going public, just so that there are no gotchas and any questions. So that way, if there are questions for staff, then they can ask those questions before it ends up in the newspaper. Because there's a lot of times the newspapers don't watch our council meetings. They just read what's on the newspaper or read what's on the agenda, and then they make an assumption of what's going on. And then you get phone calls and you're like, what do you mean? Because I haven't seen an agenda. So just something to maybe take back and look at. I understand the tight timelines. We're all under tight timelines, but you know, we've adjusted timelines in the past. Just need to adjust again, and it just makes it a lot easier for everybody to get along.
Okay. Before I call the question this, I'm just going to inform the board of what the vice chair and I see is a draft agenda, but no reports. It just says this is the item, and maybe it does say the recommended motion. We get a brief on Thursdays of what it's about, but and I think the vice chair would agree with me, if we see something that is controversial at that time, we can definitely make sure the CAO has already contacted that individual area director or whoever it may be as a double check to confirm that. I'm sure he would do it probably between the Monday and the Thursday in most cases, and we would confirm it at that time, just as a secondary check to that system, if that's the way we go. But did I see another hand here before I?
Just sorry.
Go ahead.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. I thought this was a really good conversation, and I just wanted to touch on the point that you just made as well, Chair. We want staff to be proactive and bring things, policy ideas that they think are will help the greater region. And there's always that political element that sometimes happens to directors. We don't want staff to make that decision or to have to navigate that landscape. But I do like this idea around the chair and the vice chair, because I think you, as a fellow politicians, would have a sense of that. And so I think between the CAO with this new commitment, the chair and the vice chair also recognizing that, we do count on you for some heads up. I like that approach better. I'm concerned about the advise and the consulting in the motion. I understand that came at a point from the director who was in the midst of that kind of blind side. But I just want to say I appreciate the conversation, and I'm going to not support this motion, but I appreciate the intention, and I like this kind of backup way of doing it instead. So I just want to say that.
Okay. I'm going to call the question on this motion then. Do we need to see the motion? It's on the screen in front of you, just to be sure you know what you're voting on. So I call the question. All those in favor? Okay. Those opposed? I think the majority were opposed. One was in favor, just for record of it. Okay. There's a second motion, Director Federico?
Yes, thank you, the chair. I'm going to make a motion to defer this to our next meeting.
Okay, so you're going to take this one off. Do we need to have the board defer a notice of motion? So I got a question there that I'm not sure the answer to. So, yeah, I'm going to ask Tracy though. Just
So the board was given notice last meeting. It is now before the board for consideration. However, it hasn't been moved or seconded. If it is the director's motion, if she chooses it to be considered at the next meeting, we can note that.
okay, so we'll take it that way. We'll bring it back to the next meeting. Any other director's motions? Go ahead, Director Coyne.
Just quickly. So you guys, you approve the agenda Thursday. It comes out publicly
Friday afternoon usually.
I don't know if it's in our procedures bylaw, but maybe we could move the release of the public agenda to Monday. We can still just give the public, gives the directors a couple days to see it before. Just a thought, just something for staff to maybe consider.
Okay, we'll let them discuss that at some future point unless there's a technical reason. Ms. Batten?
Mr. Chair, I'll just have to look and see what the process of our publishing it is from the IS side. Yeah.
Sure, no problem. I think we're at a point in our agenda here where we can take a lunch break. We have to anyway, so this is a good spot to stop right here. And we'll come back and finish it off at 12:30. You're okay, we will reconvene, and following through on our agenda here, the only other item before we go closed is the board members' verbal updates. Anything to report from your communities? Go ahead, Director Coyne.
Just an update on the KVR in Princeton Area H area. Yesterday we met with, Justin was there for the RDE, this was Director Coyne Senior, who's on his way to a medical appointment. We met with representatives of Trans-Canada Trail, Trails BC, ATV BC, and then community members out in the Comont area, or Tulamino area, sorry. And whatnot, just getting a lay of the land and how we can continue to work together. There's a meeting with the ministry staff Friday, with municipal and regional district staff and their staff to kind of come up with what's next and how that proceeds. Things are moving slowly forward, I'm hoping, and we should have a better idea. I'm hoping by the end of the
Okay, thanks. Keep us updated on that. I've got Director Gettins and then Taylor.
Thank you, the chair. I'm just going to ask actually Ms. Batten if she could provide an update, please.
Okay, Ms. Batten.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Director Gettins has asked me to provide a brief update on Sage Mesa water referendum, the establishment bylaw, and the loan authorization bylaw. As the board is aware, we are those two bylaws are going to referendum on April the 11th. However, there has been identified that there is an administrative error in bylaw number 3076. Now that is the loan authorization bylaw. The administrative error is in one of the whereas clauses. And while it references a sewer system when it's speaking to bylaw 3075, which is to do with the water establishment, it's clearly an error. And if the operative provisions of the bylaw are correct, it's unfortunate, but however, it doesn't affect the validity of the bylaw. As the board probably is aware, whereas clauses provide context or history to a bylaw. However, the bylaw does not truly start until the now therefore clause.
Okay, thanks for that update. Director Taylor.
Oh, sorry, Chair. Can I just make a quick comment?
Sure, go ahead.
Sorry. Yeah, thanks for that. I just wanted to just thank Tracy for sharing that because we do have some citizens concerned. I just want to make it really clear too that the title of the bylaw is the Sage Mesa Water System Loan Authorization. There is that one error, but in addition to that one error, which is like, as we just heard, is an administrative error, it does say 6 or 7 times that this is the Sage Mesa Water System Loan Authorization bylaw. There is no sewer system that the citizens are considering. And I think that most citizens realize that, but this has got a bit of traction, of course, as you can imagine, on social media. The core facts and the costs and the issues that Sage Mesa residents are facing remain the same. And I just want to acknowledge that this is a bit of an extra, I want to say like it's a distraction from what the core issue is. And I know that citizens in Sage Mesa also receive some pretty significant rate notification increases from the province. So citizens are dealing with a lot. And I think it's just important to stay focused on what the core project is and what the core decision that needs to be made on April the 11th. And if there's anybody out there that has a question for me around this, I'm very happy to answer it. So thank you.
Okay, good points. Director Taylor.
I just wanted to let the board know that the province has provided a Q&A. I don't think we've disclosed that yet. Yeah, it's interesting. Background information there. You can sign up if you want to be kept abreast of where that whole thing is going, and reference to an open house later on in the process.
Okay. Any other updates from your communities? Not seeing any there. That brings us down to the closed portion of the meeting. And that in accordance with section 91C, E, I, and J of the Community Charter, the board closed the meeting to the public on the basis of labor relations or other employee relations and acquisition, disposition, expropriation of land or improvements if the board considers that this disclosure could reasonably be expected to harm the interests of the regional district, and the receipt of advice that is subject to solicitor-client privilege, including communications necessary for that purpose, and information that is prohibited or information that, if it were presented in a document, would be prohibited from disclosure under Section 21 of the Freedom of Information and Protection of Privacy Act. So looking for a motion to go in camera on those bases. Moved, seconded, thank you. All in favor? Great. Any opposed? That motion carries. And Director Gettins, I just remind you, your hand is still up. I'm assuming it's just a leftover. Thank you. I'm just waiting for Lewis to tell me when we're good to go, and then I'll turn it over to him. Quick thumbs up. Thanks, Lewis. Motion to adjourn. Moved, seconded. Thank you. All in favor. Great. Any opposed? We are adjourned, and thank you everybody for your patience and attention today. Great.